Welcome to the Legacy Through Land podcast, where we're dedicated to empowering you on your journey to land ownership and management. I'm Tyler Markham, your host, and each week we'll dive deep into the world of land investing, management strategies, and the transformative experiences tied to owning your very own piece of dream dirt. With our expert guests, inspiring stories, and actionable advice, we're committed to helping you become a better land manager, hone your investing skills, and start building your family's legacy through land. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. We hope you'll enjoy. All right, it is literally impossible to intro this week's guest because of how special this guy is to me, how many accolades he has as a certified big buck slayer, how much I respect him as a person of faith, how much I look up to him in his journey with land and with his journey with Jesus. And honestly, I forced myself into his life. I didn't give him the option, send him a message and said, I'm going to become friends with you and you're going to become friends with me. And through that, forcing myself into his life, I've obviously immensely benefited from it. So we're going to talk to the Dave Miller. If you don't know the Dave Miller, you need to look him up. If you would Google certified big buck killer, easily the most respected guy in the West Virginia and general mountainous range region, Dave Miller's the dude. Dave Miller is who everyone's chasing in the Appalachian Hills of the bottom 4 counties of West Virginia. And he's killed a lot of deer in other areas, but he is just the guy that owns the space down there. And here's the deal. If you don't know those counties, they're bow only. They've been bow only for like 40 years, but here's the deal. Not only is there amazing hunting down there, not only has he become incredibly talented at traversing and winning and achieving success in these cliff mountain bow only counties, he's done this with grace, with openness about his faith. He's caused all of us that chase him to not just chase shooting big deer, but to chase a relationship with Jesus. So that is why he was such an infectious person and personality that I had to have come into my life. I've immensely benefited from it. I'm really thankful and appreciative if you get on here and share with us today, but I'm going to shut up and jump right in with Mr. Dave Miller. Let's go. All right. Going to hold my guest hostage as much as I don't want to. You guys know, as promised, I'm going to go through kind of just updates from us weekly over at Legacy Acres Land Company, not to be confused with the Legacy Through Land podcast. It will not shock you. It is general chaos. If you know me or you've been listening or you start listening, there'll be a trending theme. I somehow genetically and organically produce chaos. So that's what it's been over here. Actually about 10 minutes before we put this podcast out or started recording this podcast, we released the email that if you're on our VIP buyers list, side plug, you will have seen this before this podcast airs. I am selling my Ohio farm that I really love, that I just bought back from the sellers because an Illinois opportunity has come up. And it's going to take everything. It's going to take every ounce of my being and every ounce of my financial being to make this happen. So it's true. The farm that I had literally told the sellers when I sold it to them in late 23, this was one of the first project farms we had at Legacy Acres Land Company. It is the Ross County 80. Told them if they're crazy enough to ever sell this farm, call me. I might buy it back, to which I did. Bought it back. And even before I closed on it, hunted that farm this year in January. And in like 19 days, I was able to put a tag on a really nice buck. So I can personally attest to how good that farm is. But yeah, an Illinois opportunity came across my desk that is easily once in a lifetime. At least I feel like it's a once in a lifetime. And I know that I'll be incredibly sick if I don't pursue it, as you know, more sick than selling this Ross farm. So point being, if you've listened to this, it may already be sold, but if you're just now listening to this, yeah, I'm crazy enough to sell this Ross County 81 acres. So go check out our website for that listing. Kind of picture me in front of Walmart with like the tin can Folgers cup, like shaking for some change. Like that's legit kind of where we're at here. It just happens to have this Ross 80 acre farm in there because I got to sell it and move 1031 money into this Illinois opportunity, or I'll lose it. So that's that. So that's been going on. I've been talking about this Illinois opportunity and recognizing that these podcasts get recorded and then posted a little bit backdated. Who knows what the change could be and what I'm about to say, but the Illinois deal has equally gone wild. And my guest, he knows a little bit about this farm because I've messaged him and told him how excited I was and all this stuff. So he's now going to get to hear for the first time that my seller's trying his best to back out. He's trying his best to back out of the deal. And yeah, it's just been really tough. It's a very emotional deal. He's owned this farm for over 20 years. He's a hunter and, shares in the same ethos that we do is how I would say it. And so on my side, as excited as I am to put this deal together and, be able to transact and hopefully earn his trust, he is equally as saddened to feel like he's closing a chapter. So kind of all in all, why would you sell the Ross farm if you might not get this Illinois farm? Because I don't speak negative and I'm going to get this Illinois farm. I'm going to work it out with him. So that's why. And I can't really wait, and try to juggle things in the ninth inning and then lose time when I gain the seller's trust. So Illinois deal has kind of gone wild was my notes there, but I absolutely will when we're able to completely come up for air. I cannot wait to get on the podcast and talk a little deeper about this deal, how I put it together, what it looks like, the whole nine. Obviously I'd love to get our guest's opinion on this property, both in aerials, and I'm definitely going to have him come out and walk it. So it'd be exciting to kind of see what he thinks, but I'll do a deeper dive once we can all breathe over here at my campus and, feel like we've put that together. So that is going on this week as we speak. Very rocky, tumultuous, murky waters. We are traveling there. Obviously working a ton of leads, I'm always working leads, always pushing, turning stones, however you want to say it. We're always working leads over here. And if you're trying to buy a farm, it's a good time to try and buy a farm because we are pushing hard. We're pushing hard to get farms bought. Like I said, goal this year is 18. Minimum goal is 18. Stretch goal is 26. I don't so much care about did we hit 18 properties? But what I do care about is obviously we've got to hit our margins in the company so that we can enjoy quarter 3 and 4 a little bit more as hunters than, having to push, move, and shake just to keep the company moving. So working hard. Last thing I will say, and this is also going to have to turn into another deep dive podcast. Like I promise, all the chaos that I create is story worthy. So I'll tell you this, last thing that I'm going to say before we jump into our amazing guest who I could talk with for hours and hours and hours, and we still wouldn't cover enough that he and I share in common. Last thing I'll say is we're going to be selling a property back to a gentleman that we bought it from. So, sound like a familiar story. And, it's kind of the other way. This guy sold us his property to go buy a bigger farm, and I'm going to bring him on. So I'm not going to tell enough here to completely spoil this incredible story, but we're going to sell back this guy his property that he sold us in order for him to buy a bigger property and kind of trade up. He has just felt homesick, and I'm going to leave it at that so we can save the story for another day. It's a story worthy journey. And currently, and I hope he listens to this because I dearly like him. We're going to be friends. I would actually hire him in this company. He's a great dude, but right now, ultra irritated with him because he is taking forever to sign and be intentional about wanting to buy his cabin back. So, yeah, it's going to be another story, but that happened this week. That would be a first for me that, he did sign. So this will be a first for me where we buy a property and then months go by and the guy's like, I've made a huge mistake. God said home was there and I sold home and I'm just feeling sick. And, I'm a person of faith. So I get it. I felt it. So that's happening. Yeah. So just general chaos over here. If I haven't already mentioned it, I'll just tease this and we can jump in today's guest. But I've got 500 acres, right at 500 acres in Jackson, Ohio, that is our family farm that I have put tons of time, effort, and energy into. Multiple whitetail consultants have been there to, help me lay out plans. I mean, this has been my, Grant Woods proving grounds, if you will, for the last 4 years. We're also going to sell it. going to sell it. It's kind of a long story, but I want to put this out here. It may already be out here by the time this podcast airs, but we are going to sell that farm. It's honestly, it's just a little too far for me to continue to drive there now that I've moved to Columbus, and my parents live in West Virginia, and it's just not getting easier for them to manage 500 acres. It's been an enormous blessing, but it's kind of time to, I think, bless them with a little less responsibility. And for me, I'm kind of going to be more intentional with trying to amass properties closer to where I live here in Columbus, just because if you're listening to this or you're watching this, and our guest will intimately know as well, drive time, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. So everything I've owned and hunted and done other than a handful of permission farms lately has been at least an hour drive in one direction or the other. And it just becomes a lot when you're trying to really put seat time in and trying to be intentional with properties. It's just a lot. So if you're buying a farm and it's about to be 4 hours away, or like me, 7 hours away, not that you can't do it. It is just, you've got to be a little bit more strategic on how you set that up. And our Jackson farm has it all. It has it all. There's been multiple booners there that I had the chance to chase. So it has it all. There's no, no undertone here that is not an awesome farm. It is an awesome farm. It's just a lot of responsibility, and I'm kind of ready to release my parents of some of that liability and maybe spread it out a little bit. Get some stuff closer to me. Spread the load. So with that, reach out. It may already be live. Reach out. If it's already live, go check it out. But if you're interested in a big tract, let me know. Okay, enough from us. I'm giddy. I'm excited. I'm sweating. I've got a cold sweat and a hot sweat, and I'm just generally amped up. Enough of the funny business. Please welcome somebody I look up to immensely, love dearly, think of often. He's my spirit animal, likes to kill animals, Mr. Dave Miller. How are you, Dave?
What's up, Tyler? How are you, buddy?
I'm really good. It's, if anyone knows Dave, it's impossible to intro him. So I just don't, I just didn't. It's impossible to intro like the GQ magazine front poster child guy of like who kills big deer and loves Jesus. It's this guy. So it's impossible to intro that, but, no, for real. I want to set the tone here a little bit. Obviously, if you guys are listening to this, I know that I tell you all the time, but my commitment with this podcast is one of like three things. Number one, we want to empower you on your journey of land stewardship and becoming a better land manager. That is number one. We want to empower you and help bring you into and help build your belief in becoming a land steward. Number two, I would like to help you buy your first piece of dream dirt. That is for sure something that every podcast guest that I bring on can resonate with, the idea of being able to buy your own first piece of dream dirt. And of course, Mr. Dave, we're going to talk about that in a bit. Last is number three, which is if you are already buying dirt or you're already investing in real estate in some sense, I want to help bolster and garner your belief in growing your brand, growing you as an investor. If I haven't done one of those three things, then I failed. So feel free to let us know in the comments. Feel free to please rate this podcast mega highly. And I just know in saying those three things, it is such an understatement to say that Dave Miller can't provide a ton of value to all three of those aspects. But we could dive deep for 6.5 hours and like literally not even scratch the surface of how much Dave and I could talk about. So we're going to have him back on. But we're going to do our best today. We're going to do our best today to talk through some of the stuff that I think is probably most recently and is situationally dear to our heart as outdoorsmen. But I'm going to say this and finally shut up so you can talk, because I just cannot say how much Dave has meant to me as a friend, as someone that I literally picked, intentionally picked. I'm bad with time, Davis. I don't know if it was 22, 21. I don't know what year when we connected.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe, if I was organized, we'd find the Facebook message. But I essentially told Dave, he may have forgotten this. I told Dave, I messaged him and said, like, listen, God's had you on my heart. There's a lot of goals that I have for this following year. And one of these goals is to be more intentional with people that I know that can help serve me, help serve my own spirit, help heal my spirit, help me become a better land manager, a better man of God, and a better hunter. And
yes,
it went without saying, like Dave Dave can do that. That's Dave's game. And so we connected. I don't even know if I said, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, I'm coming to connect with you. And, and we did, It was such a just a beautiful thing. That season is now multiple seasons ago for me and probably multiple seasons ago for him, but being able to navigate things together since then, it's just been immensely beneficial for me. And for real, Dave's definitely somebody I look up to more than anybody in the outdoor world and more than anybody that I can just immediately think of that understands what it means to be fully immersed in God's creation, chasing creatures that he said, hey, I think you're going to love this, and I want you to chase these things, and I want you to chase me just as hard while you chase them. That's Dave Miller. So, Dave, thank you for being on here.
Man, good to be on here. We're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. I got to let the cat out of the bag. You guys can laugh, but I wanted to see what ChatGPT would say. I was curious what ChatGPT would say about what questions would you ask Dave Miller. And we did get some rather interesting ones on Facebook. Those were good. We will refrain from a few of those that I think Trey Kearns mentioned a few.
Man, that was the one I was hoping we'd deep dive into.
Well, I mean, I guess we can, but
I'm just kidding.
ChatGPT fired off some really good questions for, hey, I'm going to bring on a person of faith. And, and I don't want to just like generically lead with that, but I'm going to bring on someone who actually is really intentional and outward about their faith in the hunting industry and is a very accomplished bow hunter. I'm bringing them onto a land podcast. What would you ask them? This is what I prompted. So if you think we're like really dialed and organized tonight, I will just say, nah, this is ChatGPT. And we did choose some of these questions that we both felt like resonate with. How do you eat an elephant?
I'm not the biggest fan of, some of the things, generated and created by AI based platforms. But let me tell you, you sent me those questions. My mind was blown. Really, really solid questions, Tyler.
Yep. So I'm about to sound really educated. So no, for real. What we both said we want to start with is like, really, when you look at, and for Dave, when you look at whitetail hunting, which Dave, what would you say is probably something you're spending the most of your time in the outdoor world is in the pursuit of whitetails?
Yeah, and I think that's just a lot of that has to do with my placement and proximity of where I live here in the mountains of West Virginia. I grew up in the archery only counties. Those counties have been archery only for 42-ish years, maybe more than that now, so I grew up in that area. You're only allowed to harvest one buck per year. It is archery only. And because I'm close to there, that's where I spend a lot of my time. I'm 46 years old now. So this is, 36 years I started when I was 10 years old, carrying a bow into the woods, hunting squirrels, Tyler.
Let's go.
With a bow. Yeah, man. Hunting with a little red bow, chasing squirrels. I shot 1,000,000 arrows up into treetops and into logs and couldn't get them out. And so that's where it all started. And from that just became ingrained into part of who I am. It has worked to mold me as a person and as a man, and taught me a lot of life lessons, not just the skills of being a hunter and being able to provide for me and my family, but man, I've gained a lot of life skills on a soul level from being a bow hunter for many years. Yeah, good and bad things.
Yep. Dave, we're going to get into this for sure.
Yeah, we'll dive into that deep later.
And kind of how that was something that I easily could see in Dave's life and was something I so deeply resonated with that I obviously sent him a message and said, I don't know you. I think I said, I don't know you. I just know of you. but like, we're going to be friends, and you can choose to accept this or you can fight it, but we're going to be friends. And I think maybe I said I'm handy, you know, I can.
Literally, you said, when are you going out in the woods again to do something? And I said, man, I go out in the woods on a weekly basis and do things in the woods. When you want to go? You said, when are you going? I said, day after tomorrow. He said, what time are we meeting?
Yeah. So
and we met. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
Just kind of typical insert myself into the situation. It has
It's good.
not served me super well in my life, but in this occasion it did. So, yeah.
And me too, man. It's been an awesome gaining a brother through that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, all right. So we'll unpack that together, but let's just start climbing a mountain together. I cannot. If you listeners don't know who Dave Miller is, shame on you first. He's humble. He's not going to talk about it himself. The dude's killed a pile of animals, a pile of big bucks. Most all of these with a bow. Most all of these on absolute steeper than a horse's face cliff ridges in West Virginia, right? This is not. Like, I don't know how to set the tone. Because you're too humble, you won't do it. So I got to do it. Like, Dave is a killer. If you think of anyone in the industry that is well respected and you ask them, they know Dave, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's that guy that kills really big deer in West Virginia, right? Period. Like, they know him. So we're going to peel that back. You guys will know this by the time we're done. He'll just be humble and I will be hungry, and we'll just listen and learn together. Starting with, as we start to climb this mountain together, Dave, we start, before we started this podcast recording, we were talking offline about, hey, like being a whitetail hunter is a year-long journey and pursuit. And obviously we are going to very well, hopefully, discuss this pursuit of not just whitetails, but pursuit of God in pursuing whitetails. But it's a year-long thing. And the thing that I know separates you from others, and I want you to just dive into, even if you wouldn't toot your own horn, what are some of the I would call these the lead measures that speak to the lag measure of killing big deer, right? Unfortunately, in our industry now, everybody measures it by, do you kill big deer, right? Well, there's lead measures, and we would digress into why that's a irrelevant calculation, but it is what it is. That's what people measure by. There's all these lead measures that get you to the lag measure of killing a big deer. And deer hunting, especially bow hunting, is a year-round. You hear this all the time. It's year-round. It's like, no, it's not. Like, to a layperson, no, it's not. There's seasons. Yeah, there's a season, which is when you kill them, but the season that you actually kill them is out of season with your prep work. What are you doing? Like, we were going to just let's be Dave Miller for the next little while. Dave said he'd be welcome to, honored to, willing to let us see and hear his calendar. Take us through the next couple of weeks of what does it look like for you?
It is. I will attribute a lot of the harvest I have been able to make to hard work, and having a schedule, but also having balance within that schedule, so that things don't become consuming. So yeah, for the next couple of weeks, like I'm just going to pull up my calendar here. Like I've got listed that this coming week, I need to cover spraying some fields to take care of some natives, and then begin to establish my spring and summer plots. The next day, spray some more fields and establish minerals. The next day, like these are evenings after I get done. I do have a day job, so I'm doing this in the evening. Now that the days are longer, I can find time to begin to accomplish my list here. One day, I'm just looking at projects here. One day, plant some. Planting some fruit trees. It's a little late for that though. It's got ahead of me. Let's see. I got a DNR, West Virginia DNR youth turkey hunt that we'll be hosting here on our property for one of the weekends with turkey season coming up.
That's how he keeps those DNR officers in his pocket, everybody.
No. No, I'll tell you, I'll just mention this as a side note. One time I went to Ohio to a QDMA banquet, Quality Deer Management Association, back in the day when it was that.
Yep.
I went to a meeting, and I saw the DNR there, and I saw the hunters there, and I saw a great relationship between the two. And I thought to myself, we don't really have that, honestly. I'm just speaking transparent. We don't have that that strong relationship in West Virginia. And that's something I would want to steward and try to encourage, especially the younger generation, to have that healthy relationship between, a hunter and the DNR, because they're out trying to protect what we are trying to
benefit from.
Participate.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's just a side note, but I do try to encourage that. Yeah. Whenever I get an opportunity to support something the DNR is doing and try to show that I'm a hunter who's, is thankful for them trying to care for the resource, man, I jump all over that. Yeah. And this was just one opportunity we've started. This will be the second annual one that we have. So,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, I make, I heard a quote one time that said, spontaneity is the reward of preparation.
Spontaneity is the reward of preparation.
So if I go out and in the woods and I am prepared. I have plans and I'm executing plans and I'm prepared. It allows me to not have to force myself to think I have to be in that tree stand.
Yeah.
I have to be in that tree stand. I have to be if I have prepared.
Yeah.
I only hunt when it's time to hunt.
We got to cover this. Dave, we got to there's so much we got to cover, but I don't know if it was last year, 2 years ago, but, I learned the most about hunting last year, and I hope I say this every year, but and Brian Tanner, I had Brian on, Brian, I had him on a while back, and he was one of my biggest, really coaches, cheerleaders, other than you, of just constantly giving me strategy. And I had one of the biggest learning years in the woods last year that I think I'll have had in a long time. And like I said, I hope I have that every year. But something that I watched you do, and I don't know if this was last year or the year before, but you let it, maybe he intentionally did this. Maybe it was unintentional. He let it slip that I think you had said in a post, you scouted X number of times and you hunted like 3 times. I don't remember, I'm butchering this, but it was like,
no, it's true.
To elicit. Okay. So dive in on that. Like, to me, it was like, okay, number one, what the heck am I doing wrong? Cause I hunted 60 times. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like
I've heard
everybody put seat time in and you'll kill deer. And like, yeah, okay. Let, 2 weeks in the rut, we'll give it to you. But that's not what you did from what I heard. That's not what you did. And you would post pictures on the ground, like November 8th, like I'm just making this up, but like, it'd be like in the morning, November 8th, he's like, great rub sign, headed back in to check some more things out. And most hunters would be like, dude, like, get in a tree. What are you doing? He didn't need to get in a tree yet. I don't know, but dive in. What year was this? 2 years ago, or when does this come to mind that you had posted that?
Spontaneity is the reward of preparation. But that's not just the story of 1 year. That's the story of every year. Is I go out and I scout, I move cameras, reposition. I'm constantly patterning. And I'm using my cameras. A lot of that has to do with cameras and fresh deer sign.
Well, and let me ask a question, Dave, immediately. Why are you not concerned with leaving scent if you're constantly moving and shaking out there? Is it because we're talking a really vast area?
Oh, tremendous amount. I try to cover as much ground as I have access to. I try to cover. That's what I work in the off season. I work trying to expand my options, and I spend a lot of time talking to landowners, building networks, connecting with people like yourself who can help me obtain options.
I asked Dave to come hunt with me. He never came, by the way. Sidebar. Carry on. I mean, so what? I only had a 150. Gee whiz.
The stars will align.
150. He just wouldn't even gas the truck up for it.
No, that's not true.
So
No.
seriously, the impact of scouting and I'm just interested in that.
When I scout, putting the scent down and stuff, whenever I do that, I tippy toe into areas. Say this is a piece of land. I'll go in this corner, tippy toeing out. I'll go around this corner, tippy toeing out. This corner, tippy toeing out. This corner, tippy, like wherever the accesses are, wherever I feel the deer are. No, I don't. There's no way I'm going in those areas. But if I know he's traveling those fringes, I need to know when. And using of course using cameras, and knowing like year to year, learning when that deer is going to come into that region. Like if it's a deer you're building history with, like marking those dates on your calendar. Okay, last year, the second week in November, he was right here. You need to be prepared for that following year because your time's coming. That you need to be in there.
So you believe, and you're not the only one I've heard, that these deer have an internal clock way better than we do as
I
humans.
don't believe it, man. It's proven. It's proven. I mean, this is not just me and my opinion. This is I've watched people do this year after year. I mean, you're not going to kill every deer like this, but there are certain deer that this is definitely. There are a lot of deer. I'll say that this is definite because they will move from their summer regions, spring and summer regions into like a fall rutting pattern gradually. And whenever they move, like you're going to have a window in early season to maybe harvest the deer in one area, but he is going to shift. He's going to shift, and you need to know where he's going. And because that's going to put you in the seat where you need to be. And then watching your cameras to know when they stay out of there, keep your presence out, watch. And when he begins to daylight, that's when you'll know your time is there. Okay, I need to start hunting. But what's the point in going hunting a deer and you're watching all these nighttime pictures and this deer, you're like, well, maybe I can slip in there and maybe he'll move in daylight. Honestly, the odds are you're just going to let him know of your presence, and your chances of ever killing him are going to be very slim.
So, okay, park here a second. Yeah. Nighttime pictures. We all get excited with nighttime pictures because it's still a big buck, right? Yeah. Everybody gets excited.
Yeah, he's there. At least he's there in the area, Tyler.
And you said, and a lot of people have been led to believe, because it happens here and there, that a buck will show up in daylight on a exactly October 25th, high pressure, sideways wind, yada, yada. But really, yeah. Dave, you, and I want you to confirm or deny, you were close enough to the buck's bubble that you happened to get in it on October 25th with a high pressure. It wasn't, hey, you just got to put your time in, right? It was, no, you had a calculated time, ironically, in a calculated bubble that you did encounter him because of 6 factors that led him to walk early. Yeah.
I'll say this, that has happened. That has happened a handful of times, but it's more of this. It's more of having an area covered well with cameras and scouting intel and knowing the land, and then waiting for those cameras using the cameras to your advantage to know when the buck starts to show some daylight or he's getting really close to that edge of daylight activity. And that's when you get mentally prepared and you're like, okay, I'm going to need to enter, and then looking at your calendar, your weather calendar, to know where your wind directions and everything, to know where you can access and how you can access. Like that is the preparation that I'm talking about, leading to the spontaneity, and the spontaneity being, hey, I can be spontaneous and go sit here one time maybe and kill that deer.
Aha. Yeah. Okay. So that's a good unpacking. All right. I want to get you into a microcosm of a bubble here. And he says one time. You guys, you hearing this? Best time, how you always hear, best time to hunt a stand is the day you hung it. That's, one time, sidebar, saddle hunting for life, falling in love. Love it. It's the thing.
I like it too. Yep.
Sorry, Novix. I love your stands too. I do. You don't sponsor this podcast. There's room for you to do so. Anyways. So here's the bubble I want to get you into, because we're going to unpack so much. Obviously, you guys aren't going to be able to make a sentence after you listen to this podcast because Dave is a scientist. let's get in a window here. Let's get in a window. This is the window I want to talk through. Because I want to know, Dave, when you're talking about this stuff, it's euphoric, it's exciting, but I want to make sure it's actionable because by the way, everybody, I'm hijacking this podcast for my own benefit. You just get to listen. Dave, here's the question. You have a deer you've seen all summer. Let's just say you got velvet pictures. You know, I know. We're scared to death because we know he's going to shift. We've looked at all these velvet pictures. He's beautiful. But we know.
It's going to happen.
We know like September 19th, 20th, whatever. He gone. All right. Number one, short of you just already knowing the deer and kind of knowing where do you think he's going to go, let's unpack where would you suggest he could go. And by the way, everybody, where the lens, Dave, we're all getting in the lens of we are hunting real live, in your case, West Virginia mountain bucks. Okay. Sure. By the way, I would put Dave in the Midwest in one tree in Iowa and he'll kill a giant in 10 days. So please do not dismiss yourself with, oh, this is a mountain buck hunter. Stick with us. This is a killer. Dave, how are you going to find him? What is your intuition on how can I find this deer? But then number two, the thing that I like when we talk about, okay, you want to put out a camera and you want to find where he is and when he's showing up in daylight, that is all like euphoric, exciting stuff. Are we putting a camera on a scrape now that you've scouted an area and you found a hub scrape and you feel like, dude, I'm gonna have most of the inventory of the bucks in this area at this hub scrape, and that's where you're putting a camera and you're waiting on him to daylight there? What are we doing? Make this literally like short of being on somebody's property. What are we doing with this early season buck that we're going to try to kill October 5th?
Give me a couple other options. Give me a couple. Okay, you mentioned one.
Yeah,
is this a hub? I found this hub. I found this sort of a community scrape, this giant with a big giant licking branch all mauled up, and we're like, he's going to be here.
Yep.
Okay.
And we also found. Oh, you want more options, right? Okay, so we
give me some more options.
West Virginia mountain buck. I'm getting rid of any soybean field. This is no glass on a big soybean. We're talking mountain buck. We know where there was a lot of white oaks. We know a good white oak flat, good red oak flats. Let's just assume we know our oaks in the general area. We also found really fresh, good sign of rubs where these deer have likely either shed their velvet through this rubs, but they're just starting to feel their oats. They're starting, testosterone's building every day. We've seen some pretty good rubs. What do you want? A great worn down trail that looks like it's from a summertime bedding area that comes off down to a creek, or I don't know. You make them up. What are we going to look for?
I was going to let you list some things, and then I was going to answer by saying yes.
Okay. Again, though, I feel
cameras, as many cameras as you can.
All right, I got 5. I'm going to make it harder on you. I got 5. This is like man versus wild.
Man, we're limiting cameras now.
Yeah, because we ain't even gotten into
We're going back to my days when I had the little camera that shot with Polaroid like film.
We had to go to Walmart, man, and sit there and
I remember that developing and be 25 pictures of birds. Yeah, man.
Right.
I remember those days.
Let's just say we don't have, because you have cell cameras, right?
Let me help out here. I began by letting topography, like the lay of the land, teach me where I need to begin. Say I've never been on a property, but I know a big buck is in the area, right? So maybe you drove by and you seen him in a field or somewhere, or you seen him in a power line clearing up on a mountain. But he's there. My first step is to not set foot in there.
Okay.
My first step is to pull up my Onyx maps and to begin to pick that apart. I'm talking about, first, what I do is I zoom out and I look at the large picture. I look at as much area that I have access to be able to hunt. I look at the big picture. First thing I look for is a high knob hub.
A high knob hub. Okay. It's just kind of where multiple things converge at a high knob.
No, the highest point in the region.
Okay.
I don't care if that's an elevation difference. Maybe you're in the flat areas of Ohio and there is a roll and it's the highest elevation point.
Okay.
Usually, the biggest, most mature buck will be using that area. He uses that for vantage point, for wind funneling in the morning, because there will be a little bit of a thermal draw upward in the mornings, and then a thermal descendance in the evenings. and he gets both that thermal. And I know out west there's more of a straight line prevailing wind that you're going to be. So, but the thing is, he's going to use that. A lot of times, I have seen bucks bed where they can see one direction and then actually smell what's behind them.
Mm-hmm. Wind at their
like
back.
The wind will be hit. Yep. Yeah. So they'll smell what's behind them, see what's in front of them.
Yep.
And the high knob hubs do a few things. Not in Ohio, but West Virginia. Let's go back to the mountains just for a second. Any area that has a high knob hub, those deer can circle that in the mornings. And what will happen, the thermals that pull upward will let them wind check everything in huge valleys. And they will only have to cover, maybe a mile or a quarter of a mile. And they will have covered miles of valleys because everything down in those valleys is coming up, coming up to that hub area. That also should tell a hunter they have to be extremely careful of where they set up and how they access, how they're coming and going from a stand. Because a lot of people will do that. They will, like that helps me to build my access routes. A lot of people will mess up and they're not, where they hunt, they're not going to get winded. But on the way to the stand, they've already given away their presence because the deer smelled them coming to that stand.
So
they've already...
Without getting on Onyx, because obviously, Dave, what we've got to already do is, I'll write it down. We got to come back and have an Onyx mapping session with you just because it would be great to detail this for visual purposes.
That's what we need to do. We definitely need to do a mapping portion.
So let's just pretend that we're studying this map together and you find the high knob and you can tell, and I'm guessing on a northwest wind, the buck's going to face this way, the wind's going to hit him in the back. I mean, how do you figure out how you're going to access that? Or are you just saying, I'm going to go up there and put a camera, I'm going to find a big bed, 2 big beds, something. I'm going to find big beds around that and go put a camera to see if I'm right first, or what are you doing with that data?
Yeah, I usually try if there's a giant deer and it's worth putting the effort in. Like for me, that's sometimes I just go into an area and I scout it. I don't know if there's a big deer or not. Say I've gained access to a piece of land, I'll go into it and I'll just give a preliminary like scouting day. But prior to that day, I do use my maps. I go ahead and pin points that I want to cover, and I have a backpack full of cameras. Okay. And sometimes I'll have a couple places for minerals I'm going to establish, whatever. So where in state you're allowed to use that. So after doing my mapping, I will go into an area and I will begin to put cameras out in those areas. And just to gain inventory. But if I know a big buck is already there, usually I will do my preliminary map scouting and I will pick a day when it's going to rain.
Okay. All right, Josh Bowmar. I love this.
Oh, does he do that?
I just watched a reel the other day. He was out in just some nasty, nasty weather, but I've done the exact same thing. I mean, it's sideways rain and he's out moving stands and doing this and doing that just because he talked about, you could bump deer, but they're kind of already on such edge that it's very, very short-lived.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So you pick a nasty day and you're going to dive in. I mean, you're bumping in, you're getting into the core that day.
Not really the core. I never try to where I feel like his home is. I try to go in on the fringes.
Okay.
I'm very, very careful not to go in too far. And then here's the thing. You can always get more aggressive. Once you do your intel, and you're getting your planning. Yep. You're starting to make a plan. As the year progresses, you can always get more aggressive because here's the thing. When those deer begin to rut, you bumping them means a lot less.
Yeah.
You bumping them later on when they are rutting, they will forget that overnight and be back after those does.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the love-hate of the rut. There's I
do not like the rut personally.
Yep.
I'm not a rut guy at all.
It's just fun to be like, it's fun to I'm putting in the all days and I'm grinding and you hear bucks grunting and chasing. It's cool. But if you're targeting one buck for sure, it can be a nightmare. It's so
frustrating. Yeah, and that's my game. Always, that's usually my strategy is I'm finding singular deer and trying to hunt them. If you're just trying to hunt deer, like a certain class of deer, it's fun. Rut's fun because you never know what you're going to come across. But if you're trying to find that one solo deer, it is a struggle.
That's exactly how my deer in Ohio this year got killed that we chased so hard on our home farm in Jackson. Got killed in the rut. Yep, the youth hunter.
As Jeff Foxworthy and the old deer shows he used to do. He's old Doreen. He called it. Have you ever watched those shows?
Yeah, well, maybe. Is this the one where he also talks to the deer as well? And he's like, "And quit looking back in the woods. You're blowing our cover."
They're dressed up in costumes as deer, and the one deer comes in and he's got a cast on. What happened to you? He was chasing old Doreen.
Took a crossbow bolt in the shoulder.
If you've never seen those, you need to, if you haven't watched those, you need to go on YouTube and watch the old Jeff Foxworthy.
Is there ultimate hunting tips that are going to come from those though? Quickly, no,
definitely.
Ultimate fun. All right, stay on the mountain here, metaphorically speaking. We're still chasing this early season deer. You've looked on the map. We've located the deer, right? So he's in an area. You found the high knob. What are you doing with the cameras on this high knob? You're going to go in and try to find him. Now what?
If I'm going to go into that high knob area, I'm going to be very, very careful, and it's going to be one time. Usually I will hunt where I think he is coming from that high knob and going to, like around the fringes of the knob. Or it doesn't even have to be a knob. It can just be a raised elevation for you guys that, so you don't dismiss this in the flatter land. It's just a raised elevation place. Being cautious of how close you get to that area, and then going around those perimeters, like trying to stage. And then once you start to get him in an area, what I've done before, I call it a grid technique. I will go onto a property. Well, actually, I'll first create the grid on the topo maps.
Okay.
On my Onyx. I'll start my grid pattern of where to put cameras.
Okay.
And then, like if I have like which we can go into more of this with a mapping portion. But I'll just tell you this real quick. Like, say you have this property and you form this grid. If you're getting him in this corner down here, I move my cameras from this side and I do what I call leapfrog. I leapfrog those across to the other side, and eventually I will move those until I find where he is using in daylight.
How often, Dave? So here's another thing we've got to set the tone for. I run a lot of cameras, so when you are about to tell me a number, it's probably not going to shock me. But if you had to guess, how many cameras you think you're running in a fall, or at one time?
Probably 40 to 60, something like that.
That's about where I'm at. I have 55 cellular cameras now.
I had 20 cameras die in 1 year.
Is that all?
This has been a few years back. I lost 20 cameras.
And when you say die, you just mean they didn't even, like, not only did they not take pictures, there wasn't anything recoverable.
Yeah, they just quit. Well, no, I'll say this. 6 or 7 of them were destroyed by bear. Okay. 6 or 7 of them were destroyed by bear. And then other ones were just old cameras, old point and shoots, I'd had for years. And they just died. Yeah.
Is there anyone, this obviously could turn into a 2-hour discussion on this, so I'll quickly steer us back. But while we're talking cameras, is there any one non-cellular versus cellular camera that you tend to like for a, I hear a lot about this soaking cameras idea. Are you leaving a lot of cameras? What percentage of your 40 to 60 would stay on the same tree in an area you're never going to go to and you pick it up in March? Do you do that much?
I do have. It's funny. I do have a place on public land in Ohio that I found last year. There is three scrapes, big, giant scrapes in a row on this point running off. And I'm going to go into that place in the summer, elevate a camera, pitch it down, and I'm going to put a battery pack on it and just let it soak.
Yep.
But usually I pull my cameras out because when I mean that when I say that I'm not going deep into properties.
So you're moving them a lot. You don't want them getting comfortable.
No, I don't. If they're not being productive, I will usually leave a old cheap point and shoot, and then I'll move my cameras that I'm really trying to pattern with.
How many would you say so you have do you have a non-cellular, just an SD camera that you like, that is kind of if you bought a bunch of these, you think it's a pretty good workhorse? I know, believe me, guys, you can be 700 answers.
As long as it's taking pictures, I'm not picky.
Okay.
I buy a lot of cheap cameras. It used to be the best cameras. My favorite camera used to be I think it's BOLY was the company that made them for them, but used to be the older model Cabela's cameras.
Okay.
They took the best quality, and I've had some last upwards of 10 years.
Okay. Are these the ones that are flash? I have an old Cabela's camera that's a flash camera.
No, these weren't. No, this was just after the flash generation.
Okay.
Or technology, when the red illumination kind of came out. That's the infrared. Yeah. But nowadays, honestly, whenever I find, a lot of times, just a little tip for guys, you can go to different places like Walmart at the end of the season, and you can find great deals on cameras that cost like $100. You can get them for like $25, $30.
Yep.
That's I usually pick up a few cameras like that. The $35 Tasco cameras are not horrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't care. You're obviously not.
No.
Yeah.
If I can see that it's a deer and it has horns or has antlers, I'm happy,
Yeah.
But because if I see the deer that I'm after, immediately I'll move a good cellular camera in.
That's what I was going to ask next. I mean, obviously, continuing to stay in the context of Davis hunting mountain bucks. If you've not Googled this, which, by the way, quick disclaimer, there is no big bucks in the bottom 4 counties of West Virginia anymore. Dave would like everyone to know that. But if there were, and you were going to go down there and hunt them, you better be in shape. You better have your crap in a group, because it is serious. So what I was going to say is, Dave, how much are you battling? I would assume these cameras that are cellular, they've got to stay somewhat high, or you're not going to have any cellular service.
No, I'll tell you. I'll be honest. I have the past few years been using a lot of the Tacticam reveals.
Yep.
And they do make one now with a dual antenna.
Yep.
And man, those are great. They make a few that have an extended range antenna. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen where that is really advantageous.
Yeah.
Nah, I like the regular antennas. I've heard that the Spartan cameras work really good as far as their service and the reception goes. But I do have a Cuddy Link system.
Yep, I've got one of those as well.
Where I place one hub camera on top of a mountain, and I can run cameras down into the belly of the hollows where no chance of service. Yep. And then it will send pictures to that hub on top of the mountain, and then send me pictures. So that helps keep scent out of areas.
Sure
too.
does. Sure does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So we're still, I get it. We're going back to our hypothetical buck. We found the buck. We got 1,000 pictures of him in velvet, excited as can be, and he dried up. Right, he just dried up on your mineral site or your bait pile or the food plot edge or your clover plot, soybean field, whatever. You're out glassing with your truck. He dried up. September 9th. Is that okay? So we're gonna go find him, and now we've looked at this high knob. Let's assume, all right, he's not on that. You don't have him on this high knob. This buck's gonna get killed tonight, by the way. But what? You don't have him on this high knob. Now what? What do you do next?
Usually, this will begin to really happen when two things happen. That, as far as I just want to mention timing here. What I have seen in the past, this will usually begin to happen when a combination of two things happen. When the acorns begin to fall, like you'll notice in early season, a storm will come through, and it will blow a few of the acorns down and you won't notice, but your deer that you've seen consistently every single day, like 30 minutes after daylight and 30 minutes before dark. He's there every day. He disappears for a couple days after a storm. Usually that is the wind blowing a few acorns down. And he has retreated and went to that, and he's scrapping those up. Then after they get the deer and the turkey and the bear and everything, get those scrapped up, they'll come back.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But that's a sign saying that you better be ready, because he's going to.
When that tree opens up, he's going to do it again.
Between that combined with the photo period. The photo period, I did in college. I did my research on salmon and salmonoids. And so the retina of the eye is able to pick up the decreasing amount of sunlight day to day, the amount of sunlight's decreasing. And what that does is that triggers signals to the pituitary gland that releases hormones that sends them into the cycle to go upstream and spawn. The same thing happens in whitetail deer.
By the way, all this just happened with the Big Bang.
Yeah.
That would take way too much faith for me. I always say it'd take way too much faith for me to be an atheist.
Yeah.
Way too much faith that just all this happened from nothing. Okay.
So the deer being triggered by the shortening of days, the hormones are starting to release in his body to send him into the rutting phase, and he knows the time's coming and I need to shift. I honestly think this is how God designed things. Listen, a friend of mine, me and Ruben,
you think?
We talked. He threw this out, and I think it's true. We had a discussion about this, how we feel that deer shift like that because that's God's way, that he created things so that there wouldn't be genetic interbreeding. So where he is in this pocket of his family, spring and summer, and he's lived in this harem of who he grew up with, he leaves and goes to another region to begin to breed.
Well, and I mean, think about it's
just a thought.
Well,
that's just
think
a thought.
about the idea behind the doe that has two button buck fawns, and they get pushed off. And if you rabbit hole here, but if you shoot the doe, a lot of people believe you keep the two bucks because that displacement doesn't happen. And man,
so they have no reason. That's just a thought. But anyway, the photo here. Going back to sorry about that.
No, this is just so amazing because
that's the two things. That's the two things that's happening. Usually, your acorns are beginning to drop. Or any kind of hard mast. There's something they're going after. And then they'll come back. That's the shift you're seeing mid-September usually. Usually mid to late September is when I see this happen. Mid to late September, and then by the end of September they have moved on to a different territory. And learning that transition where they're going to, and that's usually when if I'm getting that buck in a pocket, and then that happens before the first day of season comes. I will begin to spread cameras out in a circle around the area. Then if I get him in this northeast corner, I'll move more cameras. If I get him up there, I'll take cameras from the southwest, move it to the northeast, and begin to try to pattern him in that new area he's moved into.
How often this is going to be an interesting question. I bet our listeners have already thought of this. How often are you checking these cameras if, let's say, assuming at least 50% are not cellular? How often are you checking these cameras during this period when you know there could be a shift? Let's say you've got a buck you're trying to kill, right? The days are numbered here that you want to kill him before the rut. Yep. How often are you checking this to know what is my inventory telling me?
Usually if I find a target buck, I make whether it be through using the Cuddy Link system. I'm usually primarily using
cellular in that area. Yeah, making sure you're gonna have more accurate real time data.
Yes.
Okay. So all right. So then hypothetical, you go in there, you check an SD card. You don't know there's a buck there. You just think, Now one shows up and you're like, yep, this one has my attention. Are you going then later on your next dump and swapping that for a sell, or your next inventory dump, or information dump, gather, whatever you want to call it?
Yep.
Swapping it for a sell.
Yeah, I will go. Yeah, I'll go shift some cameras from one region over to another. And hopefully by that time I've had some intel with that deer and I know where he's going to want to be, through the month of October leading up to the primary rut. And there's a whole other topic.
Well, where's he going to want to be? Because I want to know what you're thinking. Where's he going to want to be when you say that? Where's he going to want to be? And
usually where he was the year before. If you figure that out, usually where he was the year before, that's usually the first place he'll go to the following year.
What if you don't know? This is all new. You got permission in July. You're just all new? On the fly. What if
so
you don't know?
You don't have any history with this deer?
Nope. Picked up one that's exciting and you're ready to chase him, but you don't know anything.
Usually by then, what I will do is I will find, I will have this area that I have him coming daily maybe. And then what I'll do is I'll go out and I'll put cameras in a circle around that region to kind of expand out a little bit. And I'll hopefully pick up some doe groups. And usually he will be with one of those doe groups.
In that mid to late October you're talking. What time period?
Yes. He'll begin to position himself. He'll start to separate from the bachelor group of bucks he's been with. And then some of them, usually he'll have what I call a running mate. Usually a big buck will have a buck or two he runs with a little bit, but he's much more dominant and he doesn't pose a threat. So usually they'll run together. And I've found bucks like that before, being like, oh, wait a minute, there's his running buddy.
Yep.
I bet he's not far. You know what I mean? Yep. So knowing that too is also important. But just moving again, planning or preparation, is the reward of spontaneity. Like as you're in there learning the maps that you're studying, and then also learning the doe groups, the herds of doe, where the herds of deer stay and where they're feeding, what they're feeding on, and then. Yeah. And then because you never know where he's going to land.
Well, and I was just going to say that the thing
you never know. You never know, really.
What I think is most intimidating to me, looking on a map and probably to others, if you study even these, when we talk big woods, of course we're talking West Virginia, but of course Ohio has big woods. West Virginia has big woods. Tennessee has big woods. Virginia, North Carolina, almost every state can say it has big woods. But when we're talking big woods, Dave, what intimidates me about that is, all right, well, I'm going to go look for this deer. All right, he wasn't on this white oak ridge. I've got 3 cameras on this 400 yard long white oak strip or this real good patch. He wasn't there. Well, guess what? When I zoom out, there's 72 other white oak ridges in this 2,000 acre block. Well, and I'm being silly, but I'm not. It's intimidating. What are you then doing if you literally have no data? There's a really big buck. It's year one. You got permission in July. You watch this really big buck in this field or whatever, and now it's September 10th. He's shifted. Your first move was, hey, I went to this high knob. I think I'm going to pick him back up there, and I didn't. It's been 5 days. I think I'm going to go to this white oak ridge that honestly looks like this would be where he would be. Strike 2. He's not there. Now where? Okay, there's 17 other white oak ridges. I'm just making this up. But, Dave, how is it not intimidating to you to look at all this big woods? It's not like there's a tillable field here and a creek back here and a switchgrass field over here. And it's not. It's big woods on big woods on big woods.
Well,
how
you
do
can
you
look
digest
at,
that?
Here's what okay. So what I will do is I will not try to I will block it off. I will look at my access, how I can get into these 17 oak ridges. I will look at these oak ridges, this main ridge, and maybe it has 17 oak fingers coming off into the hollows.
Okay.
I will block that off, and I'll be like, okay, with this camera, I will cover the first third of the mountain, and I'll cover these 3. I'm going to put this in a place where I believe that if he is in this area, he will cover this. He will come by this camera at some point. And then I will move another camera into the low region of that. that same region. And then I'll go over and I'll go 3 of those points over. Not every one. Don't be intimidated by all 3. But I'll go over to the next one. And you know, scouting can help this too.
For sure.
Like if you go out, you spend a day, listen, especially if you get access in the winter and you go find those old giant scrapes.
Yep.
You can count, and the mangled tree branches, you know, above them. You just go ahead and mark that down and put a mental note. Bet you he's through here at some point.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And then you're going to use those obviously as your starting points in mid-October.
But I don't try to cover every one. I try to look at the 10,000 foot view again. That's where a lot of people will look at the map and they'll be like, "Oh, right there looks like a good spot." Well, just because you think that's a good spot doesn't mean that's where that deer's going to want to go.
Sure. Sure.
So the thing is covering different like regions with cameras. Like okay, I'm gonna cover this, and then if it don't work in a couple weeks, I'm gonna move it. I'm gonna move it somewhere. But I stage cameras, like on the top, the upper part, the lower part of the mountains, and then I spread them out. And here's the thing, if you leave them sit there for a while and nothing's coming in, take you some point and shoots and go on the outer fringes and go to a different region and put those out for a while.
Yeah.
That's what I usually do. I spread out thin. This is what I usually do, Tyler, is spread out early season. I will spread out thin, spread my cameras out really thin, and just try to
locate something.
Hope to get put some minerals out, and hopefully I can just get him coming by.
Okay.
And then from there, I come in on him.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. It really does. It's just, I've been in these big woods and it can be intimidating easily. You know, you could scout for 2 days and it's like, well, these ridges all look the same. Where is a big buck going to like one ridge over the other, or this thing over this, or this bench over this one?
Usually, here's the thing, 95% of the time, what you're talking about, all of those fingers will come up to a high knob hub.
Okay. And that's where he obviously,
he will be around there eventually.
Okay.
Now, maybe not. And in the early season, if you're having trouble struggling, I've had this happen, and you're struggling to find that deer, and you're way high up on the mountain, a mile away from water, go to the cool north face of the hill with all the lush vegetation, all the rattlesnakes and nettleweed, you know, all the good stuff, and go into that hollow, go lower into the hollow, because usually that's where you'll find him.
Okay. So Dave, because we have literally not answered a single chat GPT yet, and we're 1 hour in, thank you listeners for being with us. That we knew this is going to be a good one. Dave, let's pretend, all right, we've zoned in, but let's just pretend it's October 15th. I want to kill this buck before November 1st. Okay. In your mind, or whenever you would say, all right, the rut's going to start. By the way, let's tie something together real quick. Fun tie here. I would assume, and we're going to both grin here if you're watching for visual aid, I would assume that because you studied salmon and this photoperiodism, and you know that it happens in deer as well, I would also assume that you share the belief that the rut happens the same time every year. Am I right or wrong?
There are,
other than exceptions.
I will say this: if the temperature can change that. Well, no. The temperature can change when they are active.
Okay, for sure. But is the rut the same time every year, generally?
Generally, yes. But here's what people don't realize. I think here's a big one for the rut. I don't think. And this is, and I can help people to believe this if you don't already. That they don't. That there are. I think that there are anywhere. I think that there is a. I've heard people talk about this. There is a cycle of like the rut will be weak 1 year, and then the next year it will build. The next year it will build. Next year it will build. Next year it will build and be ramped up and be full bore, and then the next year it will taper back off. Then it will build like year to year. That changes.
Why do you think? I'm interested in that.
I think it's a rhythm. I think it is a rhythm of creation.
Okay.
I think it is a rhythm built into Mother Nature. And also, I think Mother Nature is so intelligently designed that they rut harder and breed more when there is more nutrition and more carrying capacity of the land. I think when a land has more carrying capacity, that you will see more fawns, you will see more brooding activity. You know what I mean? Where it's just intelligently designed that way. But as far as the rutting goes, think about this. This is what I was going to tell any listener that kind of doubted this, that there is a rut that happens, I believe, in October, beginning in October, around October, maybe even late September. And there's also a rut that also happens all the way up into March.
Yeah.
Because think about this. We see does being born from late April
Clear to like September.
To September.
Literally,
So
you
that
can
tells
see
me that
spotted fawns in
those
September.
Those doe are being bred throughout that season.
Well, all right. So
the reason people say the rut is November. That's the primary cycle. That's the peak when that moon phase kicks in and everything. That's sure. That is the peak of the rut. Yeah, all gears are swinging. But let me tell you something. I see more antlers broken off in December.
Yep. Well, all right.
Because they're aggressive. Hey, they're frustrated. They're fighting more. They're trying to pick up those does that haven't been bred yet.
Which is obviously less by default. There's less available does. So
yes.
Dave,
so they're breaking horns, right?
So you and Brian Tanner, man, this is just so fun because you just said something that Brian and I have talked about a bunch. Well, last fall we had a drought. Okay, we had a drought, and Brian told me he pegged it. I mean, pegged it. He told me in July, maybe even August. He said, "Listen, I'm just going to tell you right now, okay." This drought, we're going to have a very slow or a very short but very heightened rut. Very short, very heightened. Yeah. Because God will protect the herd. God has built this in them that you just said it. If there's less nutrition, they will not rut as hard. They will not work as hard. It is going. That's it. Okay. And it was to a T. To at least me in my own, lens, it was to a T. The rut was very, very high sine curve. A very high sine curve of I want to say almost 3 or 4 days, and then it was just smoked. Nothing.
Yeah, man.
So the other thing I wanted to unpack, because you said that, and it's just, again, more divine creation. What I want to unpack as well, because I actually tend to subscribe to this now. I never thought of this deeply, really, until the last 2 years. When we talk about, you just said the rut starts in September and ends in March, right? It's this sine curve, this curve that we just talked about. Would you also believe that it means certain, let's say this nanny doe that lives on that ridge and that, this doe group has this doe in this group got bred October 29th last year. I know a lot of guys that believe she will go into heat and be bred October 29th or 30th the next year. That is her cycle. Then Nancy over here, hers is November 4th. And I can't even remember if it was one of the We Are Hunter guys. He said, there's a doe. Somebody said on a podcast, there's a doe in my backyard. She gets bred November 6th every year, period. Every year, November 6th. I can get up in the tree and there's $7 in the backyard because she's on alert. She's on red alert and she's in heat. November 6th. Do you believe and subscribe to that internal genetic calendar?
So let me throw something out there that's hopefully anybody that doubts that, it's going to punch them.
Because I don't doubt it, by the way. I don't. I think it's 100% accurate.
So here's the thing. If you have no trouble believing that humans carry that trait, why would you have trouble believing that something else in creation would carry the same?
So getting really, really, really deep here.
Look at women. Look at women. They carry that very, very, if everything's healthy in their life, they carry that very consistent. And that is something else you find written into creation, is a consistency. And it's a slow, think about it. It's a slow consistency that works its way, through. You'll see that rhythm in creation. You'll see, think about it, even in the production of acorns, acorns don't just fall all at once. Grass doesn't just wither and dry, and clover and vegetation. It slowly fades away. So the deer's stomach has time to be able to, the bacteria in their gut has times to change change the digestion of like from vegetation to hard mass. That's a slow process of happening. It's the same way with the reproductive cycle. There's a rhythm in that, and each doe has her own rhythm. Yeah.
Yep. So, I just know so many guys that know their does intimately well enough, like even on certain ridges on their farms of like, this doe group over here has 2 does.
Oh,
and
elk are the same way. I've learned that through some people elk hunting.
Okay.
They'll say, oh yeah, we know they're up in this pocket of the woods. There's a group of cows that always come in early.
Yep.
And let me tell you, every bull in the country is up in there at that time of year.
Yep. I'll never forget hunting with Brian this year. I've filmed Brian in Muskingum County. Wait, no, it was somewhere in Nebraska. I filmed Brian. And you know what was funny is when we were in the stand, this is just how well he knows that kind of stuff. There was a doe group that came in. We were in this thicket. A thicket, like you talk about zoning in on cameras. He had picked this really big buck up, and we were in this thicket. And it was like you got to crawl on your knees to get to this tree to get into this thicket. This was middle of the rut, lockdown, classic. They're not moving far. You're going to have to be right there where they are. And he literally said, he's a doe came in first light. It's kind of like, we're not ready. Oh crap. Get to the tree. Just hunker down. Nobody's ready because we got to survive test number 1. We got Mama Nanny coming in. Test 1 is her. We survive her test. We're fine. Well, he said she's going to come in and there's going to be 3 does with her. There's a 4 doe group here and there's going to be 3 does with her. She came in and guess how many were with her? 2. So what did he say? He said, told you, he's got her. He's got a doe.
He's got her pinned
and
down.
he'll be here at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
3:30. So it was like, dude,
great.
He knew there's a 4 doe group there. 3 come in, 3:30. There she was, and she drug him in. And anyway, so hey, let's go back to now. You guys have seen that Dave has been able to rub some brain cells together. We didn't fully close this loop on killing this deer. Do you think can we kill this deer now? Let's say you found him. Can we kill this deer between now and November 1st? Come in on the setup here. We did make it up. This is all hypothetical. You pick him up on an oak flat, and it's October 15th. What are you waiting on? You want to kill this deer before the rut. You want to kill him before he gets. And when we keep saying the rut. Clarify this. Why do you want to kill this deer by a certain time? What's going to happen? I don't want to say it. You say it. What's going to happen?
One of 2 things. He's either going to come in and breed that harem of does that he is with and leave the absolute planet that you are hunting on. Or he's going to begin to lock them down into a very tight pocket of thicket. And his movement, his checking scrapes and doing things that he's been doing is going to tighten down so tight that you won't be able to kill him.
And really,
if you do, it's luck or not luck. I'll say that if it's due, it's meant to be.
Yeah,
I'll say
for
that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and
just meant to be.
If you could put a deer's pattern on an Onyx map, if you could hone in a block of a deer's pattern on an Onyx map from summer, early fall, it's a smaller range. You start to get it to where their core is going to expand. Dave could intimately attest to that core in some deer's world can expand 5 miles. It's not.
Let me encourage people to do something.
Other than never start bow hunting, right?
No, definitely not. You should, by all means. If you really want to learn about to see this really helped me out several years back. I think it's Mississippi State University has some data online that you can look at these maps that they've generated using tracking collars, and you can see, and they do it all through the year. Hey, this week, here were the patterns. This week, here were the deer patterns. And you can really dial in and learn how that works. And most deer, not the same timings and everything. but we'll follow sort of that structure. Okay, you'll see that similar pattern in that certain time of year in the early season. They're going from bed to feed, bed to feed. Maybe they'll bed over here one day and bed to feed. Maybe they'll bed over here one day, but there will be primary and secondary bedding areas. And then as the year progresses, you'll see some shifts. You'll see them start to shift.
Yep.
And then come late September, October, he may be forever away. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then you'll have to find him there. And then there will be some shifts and he'll be moving a lot. Oh man, in that last week of October, coming in that first week of November on his feet. And then all of a sudden he will be in these little bubbles. He'll be in these you'll just see movement, small amount of movement, these little pockets. And that's when he's got his doe locked down. But Mississippi State has those maps like available. I think you can maybe look up deer movement studies from Mississippi State. Very, very educational.
Very much. Yeah. And, gosh, there's so much that just comes to mind here. But I remember Don Higgins talking. I think it was Don.
Oh, yeah.
Don was talking about this a while back, probably a year or two ago. I listened to their podcast religiously for like 2 years. And he does this semi-live rut update. But he talked about, and I want to say like the 12th or the 14th, somewhere in there. In November, he talked about this date where he was like, look, you're going to have some bucks. You guys have seen this, and you would remember it if you study your trail cameras enough. There's bucks that'll show up that are completely random, like you just don't remember them, or they're bucks that you had early season. They disappeared. They were gone from the earth. They will be back on a window that is like a 2-day window. And he said, you can watch it every year. They will go back to their summer range looking for does. And you need to monitor when it was the year prior. You get a bonus buck, or, hey, that buck came back for 2 days, but you still couldn't kill him. You need to know what those 2 days are. Cause he said on that podcast, they won't miss it by a day. They'll be back. They'll be back into their summer range if that's where you pictured them. So if you lost a buck, if you've stayed with us here, if you lost the buck in the summer and you just haven't found him, you just, maybe you have a small property, whatever the case may be, you haven't found him yet. He talked about like the 12th through the 14th. Like and I want to say it's the 12th. Yeah. Like you want to be ready. It's his home. He said it's his homecoming. It's the homecoming 2 days, and you better have your lunch packed because.
And I think that's different for every deer in different like land situations. But I'll say this is one of the times that I would go away from my rule, my discipline of not hunting until it's time to hunt.
Yeah.
This is one time I would go and sit in a tree for a couple days trying to catch that window, because you're not going to be able to do that like that current year with trail cameras.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
You're going to miss that window. So this is hunting all based off historical preparation.
That's what I was going to say. This is all things considered. Yeah. Number one, the deer that we're talking about over the summer, you want to kill. Number two, you knew he did it last year. Number three, you have a small property. Whatever this microcosm is that exists, that is where this applies. I saw it happen.
Any other time I don't hunt. Any other time I don't hunt until it's time to hunt. Until I really feel confident. I don't. Sometimes I go in and I just kind of hunt an area that I don't think it's going to hurt anything.
Yep.
And just to be out in creation, man.
Well,
just to be out, allowing my mind my body, my soul to heal, man. To be out, connect with the creation, and connect with myself, connect with people, connect with God. Sometimes I just go hunt to do that. Look at the beauty of the fall, the leaves changing. And do I think my chances of harvesting then are good? Absolutely not. I did it a couple times last year. Just went out and just sat in the tree, just to be like, hey, it's my first sit of the year. Am I hunting anything? No, not really.
Yeah.
But am I enjoying being out there? Yeah. I got my bow with me. I'm sitting here and I'm watching the sunlight come up through the trees and watching the earth come alive, man. And enjoying it.
Yeah.
And some people, and I've been there before. There have been times in my life when I've not enjoyed it, when that drove me crazy because I thought, what am I doing out here? I'm wasting time. Well, let me tell you, that's not wasting time. That is keeping things centered,
Well,
yeah,
that's where we're going. We're going next to this is another question we wrote down. This was not ChatGPT, but Dave, before we start go and clear back to the top of how in the world did you get into hunting? Because I think we need to know that by now. The science of this and the chaos and all that didn't happen overnight. Obviously, this was something that was continually ingrained and etched into your soul. But what the question that we both thought is just really worth diving into, because this is how I found Dave. This is how I resonated with Dave. And this is how, I've joked a lot on this podcast. Dave is my spirit animal, but I will say this much. What Dave really is when I look at Dave and I watch him journey through hunting, just like I love journeying through hunting, I watch him be really real and raw about his faith and the things that God's teaching him and the things that he's seeing. And you can feel his spirit. You can feel his tonality through it. You can feel his nurture and connection with God. And obviously it turns into a ripple effect where you feel it yourself. So the question for a guy like you that we've just spent, an hour and we've tickled Daveisms of, how you ultimately get full draw on a really big buck. We've just tickled this. We'll don't worry, guys, stay with us. We'll keep tickling. But how do you, knowing all this, Dave, having this head knowledge, having this drive to go find a deer, having this drive to go, what do you call it with your cameras? What was it? Frog leaping, having all this
leapfrogging.
Leapfrogging. All right. How do you stay centered? This is the question. How do you stay centered and not lose yourself in the journey of trying to chase deer?
That is a great question. And I'll start by saying that I have not only not always done that well, but I'll start by being transparent to say that I have been on the opposite end of that fence where I was not centered. Mm-hmm. I remember a friend of mine years ago took me to some fella's house. This was when I was coming out of going into college. I had taken my first Pope and Young deer. I was hook, line, and sinker. I'd killed, a handful of deer with my bow through high school. That my senior year, killed my first Pope and Young with a bow opening day of season that year. So I thought immediately I was, I thought I was an elite bow hunter. And I remember there was a friend of mine that took me to a guy who was doing hunting for a living. I forgot the guy's name, but all I knew is he lived in Ohio. And this was one of my hunting mentors that took me there. And he showed me, and this guy hunted for Hoyt. And he had like 40 some different deer like throughout his house, one full body mount of this deer over 200. And I walked in, I listened to this guy tell stories, okay, about these deer he'd harvested, what he was doing with Hoyt. So I got back in the vehicle. That day, and this guy, we were driving down the road, and I looked at him as soon as we started down the road, and I said, how do you get to the point where you do what that guy's doing? And that guy, I'm sure, did not realize what he was about to
deposit onto you.
Yes. Like what he was about to call me into.
Mm-hmm. What'd he say?
He said, you go out every year and do what you did this year. You go out every year and you harvest consistently a Pope and Young whitetail deer. He said, and someday the opportunities will come.
Dave, I want to. Who's a mentor of Dave's?
And
I know we didn't write this down, but you said a mentor, and it could be a season. It could be a seasonal. That could be a mentor at that season in your life. But if you don't care, who's a mentor to you now, or then?
Ooh, to me, that was a fella. I won't mention his last name because he's involved in some. Like realms of the DNR.
Okay, that's fine.
And helps in a high level. But his name was Kenny.
Okay.
He helps. Yeah.
That's fine.
He
Yeah. I
helps.
mean, I'm not looking to
does
implicate
great. He
anyone
does-
either, but you can just
no.
personify
He-
who's this mentor.
He's a great guy. And that's not telling that not to, because he's a solid guy, man. He is the kind of by the book person and very, very caring of the resources.
Yep.
But he's not somebody that likes to put his name out there.
Got it.
I'll say that.
That's fine. So he was a mentor of yours at the time. Still is?
Yes.
Kind of?
Well, kind of drifted since because he went one way with the with kind of his calling in life and his direction, and I've kind of went another. And I don't know the more. Well, I'll say this: that moment he said you go out and you kill that one deer every year consistently. That was probably true back then. But the hunting over the next 20 years, the hunting culture and the hunting, like between industry, between culture, between it all, changed dramatically. That was true then, but that is not true. That is not true now or 10 years ago even. So I was of that mindset for years, go out and do this. So buddy, let me tell you, that's what I went after.
And that was age, what'd you say again, that age that you killed a pope and young?
19.
Okay. You're 46 now. I didn't know you had 10 on me, by the way. Geesh. Geezer.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had 10 on me. I was putting you about 38, That's good, though.
Thanks.
That's really good. That means maybe I can catch up in a decade here. Maybe. With all those dead animals on the wall.
I'm just kidding. No.
He bought some of those on eBay, but anyways, go ahead.
I did, at least half of them. But the thing was, what that set me into this place where it become all about hunting and trying to pursue that as the goal.
Well, and
it led me into this thing that I see a lot of people in the middle of today, and it scares me for them, and it breaks my heart for them, because hunting is not something to them that is life-giving. It is something that is life-consuming. And when it gets there, let me tell you, you need to stop and evaluate. You need to look at your journey, and you need to say, is this bringing me closer to my family? Is it taking me away from my family? Do I have my family involved in this in any way? Even just sharing the stories of the days when I come in from hunting. Am I involving my family? That's one red indicator for me. Or is this taking all of my time away from them and consuming me? Here's a big one. What is the first thing you think of when you wake up in the mornings? If it is hunting, usually whatever the first thing you think of in the mornings when you wake up usually has become your God. And there was a long season that it became an idol in my life. It did. It become all consuming.
What did this look like? I want to dive into that. What did it look like? Because I haven't known that season, Dave. Have I? I haven't known that season. I don't think.
Of me?
Yeah, I don't think I've known that because
when we met, I was several years past it. I had came through that.
I was gonna say because you beautifully helped me get out of it. So I don't know how you would have been going through it.
Yeah, it became. Well, let me back up and tell you what it became. It became me chasing this. Let me preface by saying this. This thing can never become us inviting God into our journey of bow hunting. This has to be our journey with God, and bow hunting is something that can be a connective force that when we're out there in creation, it connects us to Him. It can never be us and we're, okay, God, come into this journey bow hunting. It has to be us having a journey with God and incorporating bow hunting into that. But what happened with me, it was that. What the big thing was what happened. This is another telltale sign for you. I become what I call the Lone Ranger. I become a person that went out, and it was all solo. I didn't really involve other people in community. It become me going out trying to harvest a certain caliber deer every year to try to become what that guy was, like somebody who represented a company and represented like bow hunting the right way, and it goes the opposite direction real fast, man. It takes you away from what you should be doing, what you could be doing with bow hunting, what hunting could be. Like hunting has the ability to be what I call a threefold connector. Hunting has the ability to connect you, honestly, help you connect and find yourself. Like to go out and to gain clarity through the silence and through the elements of creation, being out there in it, to hear the birds sing, to feel the wind blowing on your skin, to see the sunrise, to participate in those things, to find yourself in that environment. The second connector is to connect with people. It can connect you with people, your family, your friends, a community of people you didn't have, brotherhood like me and you have.
Yep.
And it also has the connective force to connect you with God. It says right here, let me just read this, and I'm not going to beat people over the head, but listen.
Well, I will, so go ahead.
If you're one of these people, listen, that say, why would you believe in a God you don't even see? Right here it is. In Romans 1 and 19, listen to this. It says, since what may be known about God is plain to them because God has made it plain to them. So basically he's saying, I have shown myself to you. And right here's how. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, think about that. His eternal power and his divine nature, everything about him basically, it says, has clearly been seen, being understood from what he has made. So the people are without excuse. So through the things that he has created, through creation, like people go out in creation and say, well, I didn't see God out there. My answer to you is you weren't looking for him. If you can't see him out there, like my background is biology. And the more I dove into biology, the more I believed in God. I was like, there's no way this is just boom. And there's a cellular development of a plant that can heal itself when it breaks off. And people being able to, like, their bodies be able to heal themselves whenever we're cut and injured, and just looking at the intricate details of the eyeball and how the whole body functions, and how if one part of the eye, like if your eye's hurting so bad it makes your whole body hurt. Man, all of this proved to me that I was like, this couldn't just happen.
Yeah,
there's way too much intelligence within the design of the created world. And if you look at it through the right lens, Tyler, man, you can see it. It's clear. It says right there, has been made clear. So they are without excuse.
Yeah, dude, I guess so. What we need to understand then is it became, and I think if you've hunted long enough, or if you've pursued big bucks, let's say, as we like to both chase, if you've pursued big bucks,
it can separate you.
Yeah, long enough, you've experienced this. I mean, this is not an ideology that is foreign to someone who really takes hunting seriously. Not only can it financially drain you, can it not only emotionally drain you, can it not only spiritually drain you if you allow it to. It can suck the living life out of you. And I do think that hunting is sometimes interchangeable with sports. You know, I see, I'm a big college football fan. Yes. Love me some college football. But you can lose it so fast with college football that don't think this is mutually exclusive to hunting. We just happen to know about it in hunting, but it's anything
that you're chasing.
Correct.
Yes,
anything you create an idol with.
Anything you're passionate about. Anything you care about.
It can happen.
Yeah. So the thing, what we have to guard ourselves from is in the hunting realm, like I was saying, being the Lone Ranger. Because what happens when you're the Lone Ranger, you become to go on this journey by yourself alone, and you remove yourself from people that care about you, that could look into your life and say, hey man, you sure everything's good?
Yep.
You sure everything's okay? But when you're removed from that, you have no people in your life to be able, but going back to your point there, This could be anything. This could be rock climbing. This could be whitewater rafting. This could be your job, your career. Anything that you put before God in your life will become an idol. It will. It will.
Yep. I have to.
Because we were created to worship something.
This is true. And
if we don't worship Him, we will worship something.
It's true. It is true. And so Dave, how did you? Obviously, you've recentered yourself. You've recentered into what Dave has so perfectly modeled is what it is like to actually be on a pursuit, not only of an animal, but of a spiritual being, and of a person, and of a divine love relationship with our Creator. Dave has embodied what that looks like to purely chase that under the guise of chasing an animal. And I guess, Dave, what got you to reset? I mean, how did you reset?
That's an easy one. Many times in many people's lives, including myself, including this moment, I have found that sometimes we have to reach the bottom. Mm-hmm. So that the only way we can look is up to Him. Sometimes He allows us, the Lord allows us to reach the end of ourselves. And what we find when we've reached the end of ourselves and we turn around is He's right there. He's right there. Yeah. So hitting low points of just getting far away from people, it becoming lonely. That's a good gauge to look at if you're kind of in a place where you feel like lonely with it all. Or is this a place where it's actually fulfilling and life-giving, and I'm sharing it with people? Like, that's the thing. When you look on, here's another good gauge. If you look online and you see somebody holding a big deer, does that make you frustrated or happy for them?
Yeah.
Ooh, especially, let me take it a step further. If it's a deer you've been pursuing.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, I experienced that this year.
Here is a staple I live by, Tyler. I can never allow a deer to be more important than a person, even if it's someone that I may have some tension with.
Yep.
The deer can never mean more than a human being. That was never in the word, in God's word. It says there was a time when the people worshipped the creation instead of the Creator. And see, God wants us to care for people, right? That is very important in His plan. To love people and care for them well. And when we are idolizing an animal above people, we've taken it too far. We've taken it too far.
So how do you reset? Truly, I mean, you said it's easy, but how do you reset?
Oh, no, not easy.
No, I know, but you just said the question's easy. Sorry, bad
the question
rephrasing.
was easy because I
answer.
remember. No, you're good. Yeah. Easy answer. I reached the end of myself. I was miserable. I was tired physically, mentally, spiritually. I was exhausted. And I was just like, this has become something it shouldn't be in my life. So the way that I reset, I began to enter into a process. I began to reflect. And what I found that is reflection led to awareness of where I was. And then awareness led to the opportunity awareness led to opportunities to, well, I have this all written down. I have my steps because I want to eventually help people through the same thing. But I reflected. And then the next step I came to was awareness. I realized where I was. And then when I was aware of it, then I could begin to make changes. I could begin to apply things and then make plans to apply, make plans in my life to say, hey, okay, instead of going hunting so much alone, I'm going to actually go enjoy this with my friends and family and begin to build community again.
Yeah.
But that all began by surrendering it back to God. It all began by that. A moment of, okay, I'm going to give my life back to you because I've had my hands on the reins for way too long. And I have been working, here it is. I have been for years trying to build my kingdom of harvesting these big deer instead of having a journey with you, Lord, building your kingdom, and then using my journeys in the outdoor as a way to take me into your creation, to connect with you and to connect with other people and to connect with myself. It was actually something that was disconnecting me from myself, disconnecting me from people, disconnecting me from God. I surrendered to a process where I would begin to then reconnect with myself, reconnect with others, reconnect with God. It was a process that I surrendered to. But it started with him. It started with him. He was the center, I guess you could say. He was the center. And then everything in my life, it really started with I'll just share this real quick. It really started with this. I heard a guy say this once, and I almost turned the radio off. This has impacted my life more than anything maybe that has ever impacted my life. Maybe, other than the moment I surrendered my life to the Lord. This is the most impactful thing that's ever happened to me. I heard a guy say that, okay, look at your priority list. A lot of times we'll say, okay, God is first. Then second is your family. Third is, say, your hobbies. Third's your job. Fourth's your hobbies. Fifth is, and so on and so forth. And then way down on your list, you have your struggles. You have a list of your struggles. Mm-hmm. And think about this. In this list of priorities, that your struggles, that God, the person who's supposed to be able to help you with all these hard things, is far away from all these things. He said, hang in there with me. And I want to tell you right now to hang in with me because I wanted to turn this guy off when he started to talk about this. But this changed the way I live my life. He said, take God off of the number one list and set him over to the side just for a moment. He said, now what I want you to do is look at everything on your list, even the struggles. He said, but look at everything on your list, your family, your job, your hobbies, everything, relationships with friends, all the things on your list. He said, the way this works is not by trying to put God on the top of a priority list that we mess up every day. It works by putting God in the center of everything on your list, even your struggles. And when you do that, even your bow hunting. And when you do that, everything in your world revolves around him when he's in the center. Changed my life.
So what'd you do? I mean, you said you wanted to turn it off. You kept listening. Obviously, you have this moment. What starts there? I mean, it sounds like there's been this process of deconstruction that leads to a process of reconstruction because you had to get to the bottom. And I intimately feel and know exactly what you're talking about. I want to share how it felt to connect with you at the season that I was in. But before we go there, how do you start to? Obviously, this probably sounds like this euphoric mountaintop moment, and you heard from God, right? Well,
no,
I was going to say, yeah, those don't last. That might have been a Friday night, but how do you do Saturday morning? Where do you go from here?
And those mountains, and some people have those moments. Man, some people have those moments that the beauty of the sunset breaks them.
Yeah.
But some people, like myself, is the darkness of the pit gets lonely.
Yep.
The darkness of the pit gets real lonely. And man, you're like, I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with this. You come to the end of it and you're like, this is supposed to be giving me life. This is supposed to be enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And is it?
Yep.
Ask yourself, is it really? Is this bringing me life, or is it taking life from me? Mm-hmm. You need to measure. We all need to measure. And the thing is, it doesn't, and let me say this journey I've been on did not stop here. It is something that I have to stay on top of, because I know where it can take me if I allow it to. I heard a guy say recently this is awesome. He said that there are things in our life, especially the things that are some of the best for us, is the things that the enemy tries to attack us with. Mm-hmm. The most, because he wants to use that against us. He doesn't want fruitful things that are going to bring life into our life. He doesn't want us participating in those. So he tries to twist those things. But I heard this guy say once about temptation, like when we're tempted to take these things too far. He said, it's not that temptation doesn't come to our door and knock. He said, we get to the point where we just know that we don't have to open the door for it.
Yeah.
So the temptation to take these things too far, that's just part of our humanity. That's part of our humanity. But the thing is, we do not have to open that door, Tyler.
Well, and when you've experienced what is on the other side of that door and the shallow
nothing to do with it.
Victory that comes with it, you have a distaste.
Yes.
Man, coming to Dave with there was just this spirit of probably humility for me, which takes a lot. It's not hard for me to wake up with pride. It's something that I definitely deal with, and it's not hard for me to wake up with a positive mental attitude. Let's say it that way. But
yes.
I can vividly remember what this looked like to me, Dave, because it was a little bit different of an undertone of yours was chasing really big bucks and how it had led you out to an island and you turn around and there wasn't anyone there with you. And
that's a great way to paint that.
So for me, what I had happened in my life that really was just where Dave came in that was so instrumental. And I don't know that he knows how instrumental this was, but I really just really needed a new, just wholesome connection to help reset what true north looked like for me. That's what I needed at the moment that we were able to get together. But I got so busy building my career. I got so busy, and gosh, the word busy just terrifies me now. But I got so busy building my career. I got so busy being a dad, and I got so busy being a husband. I got so busy chasing, accolades. Really, for me, I've always chased lifestyle, and I've always known that for me, I need to work really hard to build the lifestyle that I want. And that's also something that I work on trying to, unpack and deconstruct as well. But I found myself so busy at times, so busy that I'd be out in the woods and I had one thing. I've always known that for me, hunting was it was the only release in my life that was pure, that was organic, that was wholesome. That was how God could talk to me. I knew hunting was the only thing. Every other medium in which I would interact, whether it was in business as a professional or as in my spiritual journey or in my journey as a husband, all these mediums, all these things that I would interact in call that God had a hand in that relationship. They were all constructed. These were all constructed from society, and they were all constructed from the ebbs and flows of our society and our culture and our economy and social media and just whatever wavelength you can imagine constructed my relationship with my wife, my relationship in business, the accolades that I think that I needed to get, the things that society said you needed to have to measure up, the things that said whether you were a good person or not, all these stupid, absolutely useless things caused this ghost of a person of me to be formed. And I told Dave what terrified me, and I don't remember a hunt or an evening or whatever, but bow hunting for me, if you've listened to my journey, anybody that's listened to this, I didn't do sports. I didn't do, I traveled. Dave and I both share music background as well, but I didn't play sports at a high level. I didn't do all these other things. I started hunting. I really loved hunting, and it was really my thing. And I always knew this was where God and I were closest. I always knew it. And when I told Dave what happened was, I got to a place where I was hunting one time, and there was so much else going on in my life and so many other things that could take my time, so many other things that probably should have taken my time at that time that you would have said would be completely normal to not go hunt. You should address these other demons and these other things and these other fires in your life. And I didn't. I didn't. I got to a place with hunting where I remember being like blown up by texts all night hunting. All night. It's like November 5th or whatever it is. It's like prime time and I'm blown up by stuff all night. I'm already super stressed about 76 things. And I looked up and it was like, what are you even doing? Where are you? Who are you? Why are you? Where are you? And part of me was like, I should get out of this tree. I don't love this anymore. I don't love this right now.
God.
I don't love what this feels like. It's work. Everything's work right now. Why is this work? And then it was like, wait, I thought this was where you talk to God. I thought this was like your thing. And it was like breathtaking. The silence in the woods was deafening. The feeling was numbing. And I realized I was dangerously close to allowing the one release from all the societal accolades I was chasing and all the absolutely ridiculous, useless things I was chasing. The one thing that I had as a release that God could clearly talk to me in was threatened, is the best way I will say, to be clouded.
Yeah. And compromised. Yes.
And what I heard so clearly in there where there's so little. I think when you get into that place, and Dave's been there and you've been there, likely whoever's listening to this or you're watching this, you've been in a place that's really, really dangerous where you're not actually sure which voice is right, which one's real. You actually literally can't. And I got to a place where it was like, where do you talk to me, God? Where do you talk to me if you don't talk to me here? Because you used to talk to me here.
Yes.
And I don't hear you now.
Yeah. Yes.
And he was like, I never left. You did.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
And it was like, okay, well, where did I go? Who am I? Why am I this way? Why do I feel this way? And it was dangerous because everything in my head was like, dude, hunting is silly. Hunting's a waste of time with your family. It's taking time away from your family. Hunting is a money expense. Hunting is irrational. Hunting is all these things that society would say, it's silly, man. No, it wasn't hunting. It was everything that I let hunting be, and everything that I let busy allow, and everything that I let deconstructing what true north looks like to me. Everything that led me to that was what the problem was. I just realized it in a tree. And the last thing that I would say, and this is how I came to know Dave, is I heard this like probably years later because I could never put my finger on. There's two things. Dave said something to me that day. We'll get to it when I met him. But what I heard years later so perfectly personifies what I think I was experiencing and what I had realized God wanted me to finally hear. Was like, we always thought hunting was for fun and to go kill big bucks. And like you said, the camaraderie, have fun with your friends, the tailgate pictures, the deer drives, the whatever you name, the whatever you would, for me, spending time with my grandpa, all these things that was hunting right in this box. And Chris Brackett actually is who said this. So he wasn't super nice to me on a phone call months ago. So I wish it was someone else, but whatever. But what Chris said that is so true. And I literally listened to him say this on a podcast, and I promised you, if you'd have been in the car with me, you'd ask why I pulled the truck over, because I had to pull the truck over, because he finally touched the algorithm in my soul that details what the heck it was when you got to this place, Tyler. And he said, I probably already told Dave this, but Chris was talking about kind of his journey in faith, and it's a beautiful story. So please don't, I'm not making light of this story was incredible. I'll link it in the show notes. But what he said is that oftentimes I think, a lot of people think they're going out hunting to hunt deer or hunt game or hunt something. But what they're really hunting for is their soul.
Yes.
And it was like,
in Wild at Heart, John Eldredge says what he was after when he went elk hunting was more elusive than the elk. He said, I was after my heart.
And that's hunting.
Yes.
That's the pure thing that Dave's been talking about getting back to. Yeah, I really want to kill really big deer. Like moving to Ohio, I moved here to kill big deer. Yeah, I could kill big deer where I live, but I moved here to buy and sell land and kill big deer. Like we could say it other ways. I've become a closet Ohio State fan. It's been a fun journey, but I came here to kill big deer. But when Chris said, like, actually, you're actually hunting for your soul. The one thing that I know that is true, and a lot of things in my life that I don't know are true. The one thing that I know is true, and this is tying back to Dave, is when I met Dave, when we physically met, and I'm just unleashing and my soul and my journey and just this exhaustedness and how scared I was, Dave. I don't know if you remember this, but how scared I was that, like, I've never been to a place where I almost quit hunting. I've never, since I was 5 years old. Yeah. Like you just talked about shooting squirrels out of a tree with a bow. Like since the first day that I hunted, my grandpa carrying me on his back, probably 4 or 5 years old, put my little Carhartt on, the pant legs are too long. You roll them up. We're going rabbit hunting, whatever it is. To like 2 years ago when this, massive reset happens, never once ever would it have scared me. You don't even you can't even hunt now. You don't even like this, dude. You're so stressed out. You don't even like this. It's deflating to you. It's boring.
Yeah.
It's costly. What's it gaining you?
Yeah.
Never did I feel that stuff ever till I allow myself to get to this place. So here's, I meet Dave. We're talking. I mean, we're up on the mountaintop here. We're having our mountaintop experience in Logan. I don't know where we were. Somewhere in the middle of Nowhereville, east of Nowhereville, and then take a left. But Dave, I use this ideology a lot. I've stolen it from him, but he was talking about watching Joanna Gaines on TV. I don't know if you remember this. And
I do remember this.
Yeah, he said he's watching Joanna Gaines.
But I remember.
Yeah, all right. Well, then if you can finish it, there's a punchline that you
go for it. No. I want to hear it come from you.
So we'll get his recap version. But Dave, I was telling him, look, I'm just really scared, man. I was scared. I've been terrified because I just about came to terms with I could actually be done with hunting. Like this could be it right here. And if you know me and you've listened to my story, when I'm done with something, I'm done with something. I know that about me. I'm done. When I'm done, I'm done. Watch the things I've done in my career. When I'm done with them, I'm done with them. That's just it. That night could have been done with hunting. Like that night, it could have been like, dude, this is dumb. Like you've built some idols, and that was terrifying. Cause not just because of all the joy I've experienced from hunting, but for me, what else do I have? It was the only place that God could still talk to me, right? It was the only place.
So let me preface something before you say this. So of course that is going to be where the greatest attacks are.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, and that was all I had left.
From the enemy.
That was all I had left. Enemy. I loved business. I was chasing business. I was in these real estate masterminds. I was in all these.
But did that connect you? But did those things connect you with the Lord?
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. They weren't attacked. All this other stuff I loved. And I got out there in the wilderness and it was like, whoa, man.
This is where I recenter. This is where I stay centered.
Yep.
Right?
So there's two ideologies that came from that day. The first one is, so he's talking about watching Joanna Gaines on TV. And he said they were asking her, you seem to like to be in your garden. You really like your garden. What do you think it is about your garden? And she just said, I don't know. I just think that it's because women, that God formed the woman in the garden. And I don't know if it's just because I'm that close to him there, but I feel closest to him in my garden. And Dave said, where do you think God formed man? And we both said in the wilderness. And Dave said, I believe he takes you back to where he formed you to talk to you.
One of the quotes that someone coined says, when I come to the wilderness, I come home.
Well, and you've said it recently, and I've said it so many times to myself, go outside, look inside. And, for us, it's hunting, right? Cool. It's bow hunting. It's whatever. It can be anything you want it to be in the outdoors. That's why I embrace what I'm doing with this podcast so much, because I truly believe, especially for man, I believe God says, and for me, God says, everything in this world changes. Everything in real estate changes. Everything in the progression of big city changes. Everything in social media changes. Everything in your lifestyle can change. Everything in your family can change as your kids age and they get busier with sports, and your relationship with your wife gets busier and things change, and your health can change and your travel can change. But guess what doesn't change? My wilderness does not change. Nothing changes in my wilderness. Now, everything changes. Let's be transparent.
Yeah.
But nothing, like society doesn't get into that change. And for me, because I chase all this societal change, I like it. I'm still in real estate, but I was flipping houses, and we were here and we were there and we were this, we were that, we were traveling. All that is change. But it's like when you go back to that tree stand, for me, it's like when you go back to those handful of tree stands you have that are timeless. Every year, they'll produce the big oak tree out on the left corner of the field. That tree, you can etch your name in it when you're 6, and that tree will get bigger. But when you're 96, that tree's, if it didn't fall over, that tree ain't changed. It got bigger, but it's still there. And that is what I see in hunting, Dave. And I'll finally shut up. That's what I see.
It's an anchor. It's an anchor.
Yeah, it's one of the only in my life. It's literally one of the only. Is like everything else changes for you all the time, Tyler. You love change. You go embrace it. I actually make it up. I actually make up change.
Think about it. In the ocean of your life, you can be moving around a lot in a lot of different places. In the ocean of your life, you can be moving around, going different places, doing different things. But the thing is, what is the anchor that keeps you fixed to the Lord? That's what you got to recognize. What is your connective fabric in your life that keeps you tethered together with God? Here's the thing. Let's return just for a second back to the story of Joanna. Joanna Gaines, she had said, there's something I love deeply about my garden. She said, when I go into my garden, she said, I feel this connection with myself. I feel like I'm exactly where I was meant to be. I feel at place in the world. She said, and I feel home. I feel like at home. I'm at home. And then later on, John Eldridge pointed this out in the book Wild at Heart. He pointed out that whenever in the story of the Bible, it tells us that God took Adam into the garden. So basically, he wasn't in the garden before. He took him into a garden and took a rib from him and created the woman in a garden. So it's in the beauty and the lushness of a garden, the flowers, and just a beautiful place. So it's no wonder that a woman wants to go in and decorate a home and make it smell pretty. And a guy, he appreciates that, but not like a woman. And a woman needs that. That's written into the fabric of her being, right? That is her. I'm home when beauty is around me, because I was created in this beautiful place. Mm-hmm. But I always tell my mom, yeah, Christina wants this beautiful stuff, but I'm a man. I could live in a Siberian cave for 6 years of my life and have no problem, and kill animals and cook them over a fire. Because I was not created, my kind was not created in that garden, Tyler.
Yep.
It was created in the wilderness. Now let me take this. If you've listened to anything I've said, I want you guys to hear this. In the Bible, it tells the story of how Jesus himself, and if you are a believer in him, we're supposed to follow his model. We're supposed to be Christ-like. So here's the thing. Listen, it says that he would go into the wilderness and retreat away from the other people. There are moments that he would go into the wilderness, and it says he would go there to be with his Father.
Yep.
Why would we believe that our model today should be any different from his? And here's the thing, Tyler, I say this to you. The more that the world pulled on Jesus, the more that they demanded from him, the more consumed he was by demands and people like pulling from him to heal them or whatever he was doing, the more that people pull on you to try to gain land or your, the family demands, or the more the world pulls on you, the more the world pulled on him, listen, the more he retreated. Mm-hmm. We see that model. The more the world pulled on him, the more he would retreat.
So you're saying, I need to tell Molly we are, in fact, going to spend 180 days in the woods.
Yes. Yes. No, and that's something I have found too. There are moments that you do need to get out there by yourself, but make sure that you're gaining the clarity when you go. Make sure it's not an all-consuming thing. And the other thing that I have found to be very important is to find ways to incorporate your family. Even though it may not be their thing, find ways to incorporate them in this journey.
Man, it's so interesting. We're 2 hours in and we haven't touched maybe one of the 12 questions on ChatGPT we thought we'd get to, but this is how God works. I just want you to know that for those of you that have listened this far, this is why we are passionate about talking about how God works. And you probably thought, we're going to talk about how does God influence your bow hunting? And that is a question here that we could cover, but it's really what I think is really pivotal to understand here is I don't know of a more pure place that I have found peace with God than when I get to listen to his creation wake up in the morning, when I, unadulterated, when I get to listen to his creation go to sleep in the evening, when I get to hear the crows, in November, when you're in a tree and you get to feel that crisp air on your back. We can't see air, but we know it's there and we breathe it. And when you say, well, I can't see God, it's good. It's like you said, you're not looking. Every single thing that you see in the outdoors points to a divine creator. Everything. And as much as, I think I love the fall colors because obviously in the fall for hunters, it's bucky. I mean, it just feels bucky. It just feels that's the only word you can think of. It feels like hunting time. But I think I love the fall so much because like I said earlier, everything changes and evolves in our life. Every year is different. I've got kids. You've got a kid. They grow up. This year was different than the last year. So this year is new. And what's not different is I can go year in and year out into some of these, vast wilderness areas that we would hunt. And it's the same colors and it's the same trees and it's the same breeze and it's the same feel and it's the same. And I just feel so at peace that God said, everything that you guys want to distract you in your life on this beautiful earth and all the beautiful things that you've done as humans that I'm so well pleased of and so proud of are great. But let me show you how the earth really, really wakes up in the morning. Let me show you. Let me have you skip your morning news. Let me have you skip your morning 50 million texts you're answering and emails. And let me have you skip the notifications you think you need to care about on Facebook when you first wake up. Let me have you skip that. And let me put some air on the back of your neck. And let me get you to a place that's so quiet the silence is deafening. Let me ask you things in your brain. Let me have you come into this space heavy. Most hunters want to go into the woods light and they carry bags. I know so many hunters that carry bags and field dressing equipment, all these things, because you want to come out heavy. That's the goal as a winner in the hunting world. is to go out heavy, right? Come in light and walk out heavy, meaning you provided. And if you're all for providing for your family and hunting, then go you. Most of us would lie and say that's the only reason we're in it for hunting is to provide for our family. Yet we'll drop $100,000 at Texas Roadhouse or $100 that night. It's like no. It's you love hunting. It's okay. But I think, and what Dave and I have talked about a lot, is the idea of going into the woods heavy and coming out light. I can vividly remember times where if a deer was at 7 yards and didn't know I was in the tree, I probably couldn't hit it because my mind and my brain was so deep in unpacking what God had taken me to the woods with, that he was asking me, hey, I'm really pleased with you. And I just have a question. Would you like to continue to carry this with you out? Do you want to keep dragging the boat anchor here? Or would you maybe want to give it to me? I created it in the first place. I designed it to be wholesome for you, and you just screwed it up. Would you want to give it to me?
Yeah.
That's where he does it. That's where he does it, in the woods, for me, in the wilderness. It's where he does it. So
that is definitely on this journey of chasing big bucks, a question that if you open up to it, that will be a question. If it's become an idol, that is one of the greatest questions. You nailed it.
Which is
will you give me bow hunting?
Mm-hmm. And that's scary.
I heard one lady say it one time. She said, ultimately in this world, she said, we don't have a lot in the consideration of a God that made the universe. We don't have a lot to give. We don't have a lot to offer. The only thing he asked for is everything.
And
we don't have a lot to give. He just wants it all.
It's, what I would like to do here, because obviously I think it goes without saying, we're going to have to bring you back on for a 2 hour of mapping session, and then a 2 hour of how to take amazing photography when you kill these beautiful, majestic animals. And then a 2 hour of how to involve your family in the outdoors like you do so well. And we see the trips that you take and all these things that Dave, wouldn't talk highly of doing. We get to watch. If we're friends of his and colleagues, we get to watch this, and it's really belief building, and it's really life giving, and it's really fulfilling to watch. And that's just because he's honoring God. That's all he's doing. He's just being honorable with what he's doing. So to kind of, ice the cake here or put a bow on this, Dave, I do want to ask a handful of these questions. I do want to leave our viewers with some teasers and thought process in hunting, thought process in Dave-isms. And, as they leave this podcast and then they're like, who in the world's this Dave Miller guy? And they're like, wow, dude, this guy's killed a pile of big deer. And I don't know, I think he's on the staff at Sitka, and he's sponsored by Tacticam and Onyx and has movies out there about him. He was, by the way, Dave was on Bowhunter Magazine podcast this morning and then decides to be on mine. So it's, no big deal over here. He's just a brand new guy that Bowhunter Magazine found out about. But real talk, Dave, obviously we could both talk about Jesus forever. And that's why Dave and that's why I just think so highly of him. It's why he means a lot to me. It's why he's just one of those guys that I feel like can be really open about my faith with. And it's really masculine to be open about our faith with each other. Like that's a real flex.
Yes.
Dave's one of those guys that,
and I'm thankful to have you to be able to share that with. I just wanted to tell
yeah,
you.
man.
Yeah, man. That's very, very important.
I know that. And
yes.
I appreciate it. And it's just, man, I look at this whole thing as a marathon, but it's just been really, really belief building for me and just wholesome resetting of my hunting and faith journey, that marriage of hunting and faith and outdoors and faith. Yes. It's just been awesome to have you help reset that for me. So obviously that day, Dave didn't probably know how much that day meant to me, but it was just like a complete, recentering paradigm shift of what it does look like to actually honor God with the thing that you love the most. And I think, Dave, I probably had to realize what you alluded to there earlier was that I probably did have to give that back to God before he would allow me to have it again. Mm-hmm. I kind of probably did have to say, yes. Why did I allow this stuff to come to the space that you talked to me in? Why did I allow this stuff to come to that space that you occupy for me? And
you said I had to give that back to God before he would give it back to me.
I think I did for sure.
Gosh, that is so good.
And it's hard.
Yeah, because him saying, I gave this to you for you to use this as something that brought you to me.
It's just like New Testament, Old Testament.
I gave this to you as a facilitation to bring you back to me, to be in relationship where we could talk, where we could hang out. We could be bros, you know, we could be family. We could be, but you took this and made it. Just like we see people all through history that did the same thing, that took good things and turned them into their idol.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we could obviously, we could spend hours talking about early childhood hunts. And like, I remember my teenage years, I said this in my introduction podcast, but in my teenage years, killing my first deer with a bow on video at like 15, 16, somewhere around there. I remember being 16, being in a tree stand, listening to the morning, listening to cars running. You know, you have the thoughts of, should I not be skipping school today? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? But you could recenter yourself about, nah, this is good. I love this. This is good. And God said, this is good. Like, I love this. And I knew I felt good. I'm only 16 though. I don't know how to unpack that, but I knew I felt good out there. And then you get in your 20s, get married. I don't have kids yet, but I'm busy. I'm growing a business. I'm doing this. I'm doing whatever. You guys insert the blank. But in the 20s, it was like, nah, this is still good. This is good. This is pure. Yeah, that stuff you're talking about, it can wait. All this stuff can wait. The stuff you need to do, it can wait. Do you need, you know, should I not be in this tree? Should I be raking leaves like the guy that I can hear over here blowing leaves? Should I be blowing leaves? Am I a bad dad? Am I not keeping up my house? This is still good. It took getting to 34. You know, after your 20s, then you have kids. Nope, it's still good. I'm still a good dad. It's still wholesome. I'm still doing the thing. It's all good. This is still good. When I'm out here and I listen to the woods come awake and I hear cars and I know these cars are probably going to work. Like, am I bad? Like a bad person because I'm not going to work today? I'm going to go hunt? No, this is still good. It was all still good until you let the seeds of doubt grow long enough. And society was like, no, dude, you are a loser. And God was like, nope, nah, I've always wanted you to come here. I've always asked you to come here.
What it is, we come to the place where there's a place in the Bible that alludes to what you're talking about. And it says that what you're talking about is balance. We get the balance of our lives off.
Yeah.
And it says in the Bible, it says that the balance belongs to the Lord. It says, and the weights of the balance are in his bag. Essentially, the balance, the scale is his of our life. The balance is his, and how to make it balanced, the weights that should be put on each side to make our life balanced are in his bag. And what happens is we take the bag out of his hand and try to make the balance. We try to balance things and say, oh, this should go here, this should go here. And it's just all out of whack. But the thing is, when we surrender that back to him and say, here's the bag back, I can't balance this. That's when it begins to become balanced again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the idea of giving up something that you love so much, giving it back to God, the biggest concern, giving it back to him, obviously for anyone, the biggest concern is what if he doesn't give it to you?
It goes away. It goes away.
Yeah, what if he doesn't ever give it back to you again? I didn't know what any other release was that I would have. I didn't know any of it. I don't play basketball with buddies. I don't, name the thing. I don't do anything else. I do dirt and deer. That's what I did. So the idea that I'm going to pick up going to the YMCA. No, this is scary. This is not, I don't have anything else. This is what I've built my basis on. Yeah, it's pretty tough, but gosh, it's beautiful to just say, well, the guy who helped you build the basis is probably pretty good at resetting it for you. It's probably pretty good at that. Yes. And getting it back has just been like a 2.0 version, Dave, so faith in the field. I want to ask a few of these, and then we're going to call this one. We'll bring you back. We're going to bring you back. I know you guys, thanks for sticking with us if you've been this long, but I mean, I think we all thought this might be about hunting, and it should, because he's a killer, but I think it is about hunting. It's about how to hunt for your true soul. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I actually care about. Obviously I sell land so you can go kill deer. I sell land so you can build your house on it. I sell land so you can do commercial stuff. I sell land because I love dirt, but I'm really, really, really passionate about all the things we've been talking about that happens to happen on dirt. I think it's awesome to be able to unlock that. And, the true American dream of selling or owning dirt. Like I feel like I can help along someone's journey if I can sell you that piece of dream dirt to create these legacies and these lasting memories we talk about, and watching God's creation come awake. There's no better feeling, and Dave, you're a landowner. There's no better feeling than doing this on your own dirt. Like talk about that enhancement.
Well, the thing is, what I found is that by interacting with land, we are participating in one of, the first command that God gave to mankind. He said, take dominion. I think he was talking about this stewardly care and dominion over the earth, help bring order to chaos, help to cultivate. There's so many different like verses that instruct us that are tied to this, that talks about tilling up, like even talking about in our own lives, unproductive parts of our life. The command is to till up your fallow ground, the parts of our life that are unfruitful, not producing anything good. He tells us to break it up, to till it, to work it. It's the same thing that we're returning when we start to interact with land. That's what I found being out here through the blood, sweat, and tears of the years working soil, like and connecting with the earth to know what it needs to be the most fruitful that it can be. What we find is, we are participating in one of the original things that God made us for. We are tapping into the OG design of the Lord. This is the original. This is it. This is why he made us, man, to care for the land, to have stewardly dominion over it.
Amen. Amen. For real. So basically, go to legacyacresland.com and you can fulfill the biblical principles in your life by buying land from us. So
exactly.
Just closing that loop really quickly. But Dave, real talk. This is one I want to cover. Obviously, we're going to have to bring Dave on there's questions like, you've harvested some big deer. What are some of the things that are some of the most memorable hunts? We're not going to get to that stuff tonight. We just won't, even though we might want to. We would be up till 5 a.m. What I do want to get to put a bow on this podcast is and this is going to sound like a loaded question, and we've danced around this all night, but how does your faith influence the way you hunt and interact with the land? And maybe ties this together to this.
Way that I hunt.
How does your faith influence the way you hunt and interact with the land? And this may tie together to it. Have you ever had a moment in the woods where you just felt undeniably close to God? And can you take us back to that?
Yeah, there was let me answer the first question. Ask me that first question.
How does your faith influence the way you hunt and interact with the land?
How does my faith impact that?
Yep. How does it influence the way you hunt and interact with the land?
Well, what my faith does in terms of that is whenever I am out in either the field working the land or hunting, it has allowed me to have what we talked about earlier: eyes to see and ears to hear, skin to feel the wind, ears to hear the birds, eyes to see the beauty of his creation, which it points to him. Like seeing his creation is seeing the truth of the Lord. Seeing the beauty of his creation is seeing the beauty of the Lord. Like that is how my faith has helped me to go out and use this as a facilitator, as a vehicle to take me to the Lord. That's what, to take me to him. to get me into a place of silence and solitude, away from a world that I struggle. We all struggle, I think, to disconnect from.
Yep.
We always have an email to answer. We always have a text message popping up. We always have a voicemail. We have to find pockets where we retreat from that, and we find clarity to have this reflection, to have connection with ourselves and God and people, like I've said, this connective, a place of connectivity. That's essentially how I think the biggest thing that my faith, how it's impacted how I hunt. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm still pursuing, and here's another thing. This is not about just giving up your pursuit of big deer, because listen, what pursuing a big deer can accomplish in your life is this. And that translates back to everyday life in a spiritual way. God can use you going out and pursuing a mature animal, and that whole quest of doing that, and all the puzzle pieces, all the hard challenge there. He can use that to prove to you have what it takes to make it through the hard things of life, that you have the ability to problem solve in the woods. So yes, I did this. God has shown me spiritually through this that I can do this in the rest of my life. I can become a strong man. I can become a strong man for my family. I can go out and work hard and be a strong mentally and physically, strengthen myself both ways out in the field.
Yep.
And then I can bring that home and be strong for my family. There's things that translate back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yep.
When I'm doing things out there, but you have to keep that, stay centered so that it doesn't become the idol. But as long as you're conscious of that and you're staying ahead of it, you can use those challenging things to mold you into the best versions of yourself. And that's what God's up to. He wants to use that pursuit of the hard things. I heard a Navy SEAL say that recently. Why did you go through all that crazy, hard training and all the things that you go through? He said, because it made me strong in every realm of my life for everything. Hunting has the ability to do that. That's what the pursuit of these trophy animals can do. The challenge for us as men is good. While the heart says we need three things as men. We need an adventure to live, a battle to fight, and a beauty to rescue. Two of those things.
Say that again.
We need an adventure to live. All men need an adventure to live, a battle to fight, and a beauty to rescue. That is written throughout.
Did you write this? Did you make this up?
No, that's Wild.
Okay, I was gonna say, dude.
Yeah, no, that's my boy John Eldridge.
All right,
I can't take
third
credit
time.
for that.
Adventure to chase.
Adventure to live.
Adventure to live.
Think
a
about
battle
that.
To fight.
That's my over on the side of the refrigerator there. That is a family adventure board we make at the beginning of every year. We list throughout the year adventure and put dates out by it, adventures that we want to go on.
Okay.
So I brought this is not just me going on adventures.
Yep.
This is me bringing my family into this thing.
I'm doing this.
An adventure to live, a battle to fight, and a beauty to rescue.
I got the battle. Yeah. What's the beauty to rescue?
Oh, that's the God looked down and said, it's not good for man to be alone. So he created a woman.
Okay. So I rescued that. All right. I got that. I was just trying to figure out which boxes I've checked off yet. A battle to fight. To me, some of what that comes to mind is like when we do pursue one deer.
There you go.
I mean, it is. It really is a battle. It's a chess match.
Yes, that's the battle. That's the part that strengthens us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard this. I'll never forget hearing Jared. It was either Jared or his brother Justin Lurk. He said on a jury video years ago, We are part-time hunters hunting full-time deer. And,
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, that is so accurate. That is so true. We
Yeah.
are just part-time hunters hunting full-time deer, and they're pretty good at it. They're pretty good at being full-time deer. They have to survive way more than just us every day, way more than just us.
I heard a quote recently that said, "We as men, we need to have a sword in one hand. We need to have a sword in one hand and a shovel in the other. Fighting as we build."
Okay, I was going to say, are we burying our dead? Is that what's going on?
If necessary. No, we're fighting as we're building.
Okay.
As we're constructing, we're building things.
Yeah.
We're fighting battles.
Oh, for sure.
And think about it. That's a lot of that is written into the life of a hunter. A guy that's out hunting. He's building, he's creating, he's preparing. And all so much translates over back if we're living it out the right way. So much can translate over from the world of hunting into everyday life if we're open and we allow God to show us that parallel. It's in the Bible. It says that to some people he gave the mysteries of heaven, and then to other people it says he spoke in parables. So when we're out in creation, he's able to basically get down on our level and be like, hey, this tree stand that you're setting up, you need to go through all the right steps here. You need to make sure that you put the straps around, you tighten it down real good. You need to make sure you get everything out. You need to be safe. You need to be careful. You need to get everything. You need to do this right. And then you get home and there's this project maybe your wife really cares about that you don't care about much. And then
busted.
And then the Lord says, now listen, you need to do this right. Mm-hmm. You need to tighten all the straps. You need to make sure this is done right.
Yep.
This is real stuff.
Well, and
this is not.
I don't like to slow down of anything, and hunting has forced me to slow down.
And do it right.
Oh my goodness, I don't like to slow down.
If there's anything I see in the life of Jesus is that he does not do things halfway, and he was a finisher. He was a finisher. Mm-hmm. What's the last thing he said on coming up on Easter? It's a good time, I guess, to mention this. What's the last thing he said on the cross?
Other than "I love whitetails," he said, "It is finished."
It is finished. Done. I'm a finisher, and that's what he wants us to be.
Oh, for sure. I mean, book that you've mentioned, Wild at Heart, a lot. If you haven't already read it, Dave, I think it's on the back shelf here. But there's a book. Hold on, I have it. Hold on one second. Y'all got to read this book. Hold on.
Yeah. Also, while he's getting that book, I would encourage every man to read Wild at Heart.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Wild at Heart. Okay, you ready? I'm going to give you this, guys. I'll say it so that for you that aren't visually watching this, you have to read this book if you haven't, Dave. Okay, this is Wild at Heart 2.0.
Okay.
Chase the Lion with Mark Batterson. Chase the Lion. If your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. New York Times bestseller. And what this is about is he wrote another book called In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day, or something like that. And it's basically about when they were dropped into the lion's den. Is it Daniel in the Bible was dropped in the lion's den? Basically, chase after the things in your life that scare you. Chase after the things that God instills in you. Chase after these things. Chase the lion. You must. Like you said, we have to have a battle to fight. We have to have an adventure to go on. That's what this book's about. Chase the Lion. Let's read it. It's really good. Easy read. It's on Audible as well. But sometimes I'll read that like once a year just to remind myself, God made you a chaser and a crusher and a doer and a shaker and a visionary and all this thing. Because other people's blessings will be unlocked from what you go chase. So you still need to chase. You need to chase.
I want you to, let me throw something out there. Do you know what one of the cultural standards or cultural models over at some of the countries in Africa are? for rites of manhood, they send boys out into the field to go lion hunting.
There you go.
And if they come back alive, they're men.
And we do the same with whitetails. If we come back alive, we are men. Dave, we could talk for hours and hours and hours, and we're going to have to come. We're going to bring you back on. But here's what I want to end with is what are you excited about for, and what I would love to end with, you pick. I'm going to give you two questions. You pick, because they're both going to take a little bit to unpack here. I'm hoping I get to hear the answer that I want to hear, but I'll give you two options. Number one, we talk about your journey from last year as a deer hunter. We talk about how you ended the season, because I know you ended the season on a high note, but we talked about this in person. It was one of the most grinding seasons. And for someone else, it was one of the most grinding seasons. I ended up killing a deer on a farm this farm I obviously ended up buying that I'm now selling. I mean, this is insane. But I also know you had an equally grinding season. So question one that you get to pick. First one is, do we get to unpack your season from last year, just the highs and lows, ebbs and flows? Or number two, what are you excited about this year? And that doesn't just have to be your hunts. It doesn't have to be potentially if you have a deer. It could be a trip you have with the family, but you're always doing something. You're always on a journey, right? This whole thing's been about the embodiment of a journey. Yeah. What are you excited about this year? And I'll let you pick. Which one are we going through?
I think we'll go that one.
Dang it. I wanted to hear about your hunt.
I definitely want to do that
okay.
sometime, but because especially with the whole wrecking the four-wheeler thing, that was
all right. Teaser alert! He's coming back on.
Teaser alert! We'll talk about that one next time.
ATVs were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yeah, I flipped a four-wheeler over on myself and my bow, and
side plug for Matthews, it survived
and killed a deer that evening.
Oh, it's fine, Dave. Just tease us with that. It's cool.
After a 2-mile hike to hang the stand and then kill the deer.
Oh my goodness.
One of the craziest hunts I ever had. It was wild.
But we're gonna go with the latter, which is he's gonna tell us what he's excited about. Y'all have to come back for the full detail ATV-isms.
Yeah.
What are you excited about this year?
I am super excited that I drew an Idaho elk tag. Yep, super excited about that. And in a unit where we normally vacation and fly fish. So we're going to get to be in the area, in the Stanley, Idaho area. My family will be enjoying the town. I'll be out on my e-bike, burning the mountains down. Elk hunting.
Maybe a chance for some reclamation of the past or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Oh,
some bad hunts back there, huh? So
crazy hard.
So hold on. You're excited about this. For a listener who can't quantify. All right, sounds cool, but back into this, Dave, because I'm going to guess, is this a really hard tag to draw? Number one.
Locals camp in tents for 3 days at the places that sell the license to get this tag.
Okay, so is this a draw or an over the counter?
No, it's not a draw. The way Idaho is set up different from any other state in the country. You either have to log on or go to a dealership and get the tag.
So that's why these folks camp out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a hard.
So how are you getting a tag? You're logging online, you're saying?
No, I flew out this year.
Oh my goodness.
But let me tell you, I mean, I probably won't do it again because like the people right next to me they didn't even have a shot. It's just luck of the draw either way. Like you're assigned a number and whatever your number is, well, you either are able to get the tag you want or you're not.
Oh my goodness.
So
you flew out to get this tag, if I'm hearing you right.
I flew out because I heard that there were a little better odds.
Oh
and
my goodness!
I just happened to get it. I couldn't believe it. Like when I got it, the other people were like, "What tag did you get?" And I said sawtooth, and they were like, "No way." So, but it's not one of the like 1 in 25 year tags. It's still an over the counter. It's still going to be challenging, but the terrain keeps a lot of people
Off.
away.
What's the time of the year you're going? When is this?
September.
Okay.
I'll be going.
Okay.
I'll be going probably mid-September when the bugle really start try to catch that first real good cold front that comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sets them off.
And I'm going to guess that the whole family's going.
Whole family's going. Yeah.
Yep. Then you drive out. This is a whole big, it's an escapade. You go out from West Virginia all the way to Idaho.
Yeah. I get it all. I get the adventure to live, the battle to fight, and the beauty to rescue.
Yeah, and it might not be some beauty to rescue at the end. You might be rescuing your own selves and flat tires and chaos and stuff.
Yeah. Fighting mountain lions and grizzly bears, and it's good.
Man,
so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that. That's fun.
Yeah, dude, that's going to be awesome. You're going to have to help me get the elk itch. I've just still got the itch to kill big whitetails. It's not that I don't have the elk desire, but it's like way lower than my whitetail desire.
It's to me, it's equal.
Well, and that sounds exciting because that means it's a new, plateau.
The bugle. Oh yeah. There's always that next.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. I haven't gotten the itch yet.
It's incredible.
I filmed some elk hunts years ago.
Oh yeah.
I filmed years ago. But
that's awesome,
man.
So I got that going on. The second thing, really excited about, my little girl had an encounter with a beautiful 9-point here on our property 3 times last year. One time for 15 minutes. And it came in directly at us at 30 yards and stood there. And I use feed, and it stood there in one little area feeding. And instead of turning left, it turned right. And because she's using crossbow. I mean, she's 11, and she couldn't get on the deer. It went up the hollow, and then had 2 other encounters. And she found the sheds to it this year. So yes,
you're hoping to have redemption.
Oh yeah. So I've got a good setup for her, I feel like. And so really excited for that.
Nice.
And I got a few up and coming deer. My wife, I'll go ahead and just say it. She beat me last year. She killed a larger deer than I did. She did.
We're talking about being thankful and happy here, Dave. So
quit. I know. No, she had been patient for 4 years, 4 seasons, and not shot a deer because she was wanting to kill one over 150.
Wow.
And that was her goal. And she got one in the mid 50s this year.
Wow. Yeah, I knew it was a really good deer, but man, it's just, you guys, when you go friend Dave, number one, he's probably over 5,000, so he won't accept your request. But number 2, he's hard to keep up with. Lots of big deer hit the ground around there, so you don't really know who did what. But man, that's awesome. I didn't even realize. I knew she had killed a really good deer. I just didn't know.
It was incredible to see it all. Just
that's awesome.
4 or 5 years in the making. She'd been patient. She had taken a deer off of our property here like 7 or 8 years ago, and it was like a 140 8-point, really old mature deer, and then she had taken a pretty good 10-point, maybe 125 deer in the archery counties one year. And then she said, I want to kill one over 150. And I was like, do you know what you're saying here? Yeah. I was like, that's a pretty, because, she sees me going out pursuing deer and I try to, at the beginning of season, I always make my target like 160. And then by the end of season, in that last month, I always try to just harvest a mature deer over 6 years old.
Yeah.
A deer that needs to be taken out of the herd. But she sees me doing this, and I'm like, this is going to be grueling.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm good. It wasn't no big deal to her, but you know how.
That is so awesome. I mean, so you guys know they have one child. So him and his wife and now his child, they're all hunters. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, because my daughters really haven't showed a ton of interest yet. They have gear, they have a crossbow, they have all the stuff. They just haven't showed a ton of interest yet. And I'm really not going to push them super hard. I'm trying to not.
Let me give you one word of advice. When you ask them, do not ask, hey, do you want to go hunting?
Okay.
What you do is you say, hey, let's load up the stuff and go hunting.
Oh, they've been.
No, you don't give them that option.
Yeah.
You just say, let's go hunting.
Yeah. Well, and I honestly, Dave, what I've got to do a better job of, and I'm sure you know this struggle, I've just got to do a better job of setting time up for them. I've just got to set aside time for them.
Yeah.
And
that's that balance thing. That takes,
it is. And you know, there's so much going on right now. Ours is about an hour and 20 minutes from our house to Jackson. So, you know, we really can't go after the time, you know,
that's a long
yeah,
way.
we can't go after they get out of school, yada, yada, yada. So there's some permission farms I've got around here. And I've just kind of thought, I've just got to do this, even if it's just sitting in a ground line and a corner of a fence line to let them get going. But,
come on.
man, all right.
Yes.
So you're excited about Idaho. That's of course great. You're excited about Brooke having redemption on a buck. You said you've got a couple up and comer deer or some things or some deer you'd be excited about. You got anything you're real excited about? I mean, this is putting him on the spot. Yeah. And you find any sheds? Did you find any sheds of him? Yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. I mean, I think that's a stretch, but it depends on the sector. Okay. Well, I mean, there's this thing called ChatGPT. You know, I don't know if you just want to prompt it and well, and that's what I was I was kidding, of course, but yeah, I'll chat GPT it, send it back to you and tell you I didn't chat GPT it. It was just me coming up with ideas. Well, dude, for real. I mean, obviously we would have to know the context of the book, but the thing that I know that a lot of people use chat GPT for, and by the way, I have a book publisher friend, that I'd be happy to connect you with. It's my real estate coach. He's a really good friend of mine. Carl, he's, one of his best friends is a publisher and has helped him write several books, but you know, if that's helpful, I'm happy to connect you. But what I do know people use Chat GPT for is like, hey, I have I have these ideas. Here's what I do. And here's these things. How could these ideas become more practical scenarios that would be more digestible for a book? Enter. And then it's like, and then you're like, oh my gosh, there's like 2 really good ideas out of that 10 that it gave me. Okay. Now those 2 prompt your thoughts of, oh, how about this? Yeah. Yeah, just kind of continues to move that needle of the creative juices. But that's awesome. That's really awesome. Last thing I was going to say for this podcast, of course, we need to have you back on. I just wish I knew somebody that like lived in Ohio that would just love to have you come hunt with them where your season could go longer. I'm sure that's a struggle for you that West Virginia ends December 31st and multiple people that would love to have you in Ohio. So it's just weird, just pray about it. Just pray about it. I don't know, if I know anybody that would love to have you come hunt, but if there were, you should ask them because maybe your seasons could go a little longer in the Buckeye State. I don't know. Just a thought. Think about it. Right. It's like on Dumb and Dumber when the bus pulls up, all those women, hey, we're looking for 2 guys to oil us up. And he's like, you are in luck. There's a town about that. Yeah. Do you realize what you've done? It is that way. We keep our eyes open. Okay. Well, our opportunity will come. No, real talk, dude. Like, I don't know if I have to like threaten you, but it would mean a lot to me if you would come and hunt with me. So just publicly saying, come on over, bro. And I already know our boy Shannon Sizemore, who's coming on here next. Yep. Shannon would probably love to have you. I can think of others, but yeah, I do know that season that's been one of the really nice things about Ohio is, having a month and 10 more days than West Virginia to like really dive that late season plan in. Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, it means a lot to me that you come on here. It means a lot to me that you take now 3 hours to be intentional with my guests and my listeners. So the final thing that is an easy question for you that is asked of every guest is if it's possible, how can people connect with the Dave Miller? How do they find you? How do they connect with you? There you go. And you've actually done, I don't want to throw this out here as like a teaser that you don't want, but you've done a handful of whitetail consultant plans for people, right? So is that something you would, if somebody was geographically in your area listening to this, is that something you would okay. All right. I didn't want to. Sure. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Yep. Let's go. And then you're going to talk to Onyx about sponsoring my show and everything's great. Perfect. Sweet. Well, I mean, I don't know, just can't think of a podcast that might be good for theirs other than a land podcast. But anyways, yeah, for real, Onyx has been awesome. We definitely, Ben Rising made me use Deercast for a hot minute, but it's not as good as Onyx. So anyway, I said it. He knows that we're buddies. It's all good. I didn't say that. Cut that part out, editors. So anyway, dude, we're going to have you on for like 7 more episodes here. I would love to, obviously we love to cry together and talk about Jesus if you can't tell, but we also I would love to dive more into the deer knowledge and just the incredible brain you have for how to put whitetails in people's trucks. So we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to do that more often. And I would love to also just be able to semi-live if it's possible. I don't even know how I'm going to do this yet, but I'd really love to have a semi-live podcast check-in, update, whatever, throughout the season this fall, just to kind of have the feel of like, hey, Dave, in the next week, what do you think's happening in the woods? And I'll do it with Brian Tanner and I'll do it with you. And I'll do, we'll get a whole group of guys that it's like, what are you seeing? What do you think's happening? And what should guys be positioning for in these next few weeks? 5 minutes, it's done. I think a lot of people would benefit from that. So comment below. If you haven't already, please rate, review, like, subscribe, whatever's appropriate for the channel, for this podcast. Do that. Send it to your friends. Tell us you love Jesus. If you would like to know Jesus, real talk, get a hold of us. You can DM him. You can DM me. We would like to have a great conversation about this guy that we've talked about a lot and how he can impact your life. So this has been good, dude. This has been good. It's tough to say, but I typically go to bed about 3 hours earlier than when we're ending this. So, we should probably end this podcast, unfortunately. I really, really, really appreciate this. Yeah, likewise. I knew we would, and I can't wait to do another one. So honestly, if you've gotten this far, it's because you've seen the benefit of listening to Dave, and it's really easy. to find the benefit of listening to Dave. He's immensely benefited my life in how he's just shown me how to walk a path in victory and how to walk in actual truth and grace and how to walk in knowing that God's pleased with you, whether you A, think he is or not, or B, think you'll ever measure up to it, or C, if you do measure up to it. It's that's an unreal thing. God is pleased with you no matter what. So it's just been beautiful to watch that, man. Been beautiful to watch. So that's it. If you've stuck with us this far, we really appreciate it. Go like, subscribe, follow, do all the things that are appropriate. And I will see you guys next week on Legacy Through Land.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. If you're finding value in this content, we'd love to hear from you. It'd mean a lot if you could share with us how this podcast is helping you on your journey and let us know of any topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Be sure to connect with us on all social platforms at Legacy Acres Land Co. and subscribe to stay updated on when new episodes drop. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Legacy Through Land podcast, and we'll see you next week.